You know, my son he's 18 now. When he was born, you got to go and get a job. So, you know, you think you're working your nuts off, not got no money, and you think something's got to give. Do you want to drop these bags off? And you'll get good money for it. Thinking back then, if I knew it was guns, that would have been... I know drugs is probably just as bad, but if I knew it was guns, you know, you'd think, well, I don't know about this. I got the phone call, you got to meet this guy in... This is mad. You got to meet this guy in Faden Boys. Got out of the car, and you know, you think... And that moment, I thought, oh, this is it, I'm fucked. I was like, are you mad? And straight away, I'm one of them, like, you can stab me, but don't stab my family. Like, I'd think, you're not worried about your family. And I get a phone call, you know that job you done the other day? I'm like, yeah. He went, he's gone over. And I'm like, right, what does that mean? And he's gone like, you're wet. I said, what do I do now? He said, get out of the country. Do whatever, just f off. And I was like, are you kidding me? And I knew in prison, the stories you hear and you think, I'm in Belmarsh. And do you remember the guy who chopped a body up, said he'd done it for like the crime family? Like, it was a right weird story. He was doing a cookery course in the kitchen. A prisoner's raped another prisoner. I never heard that until I got to this DCAT. And it was on a farm. There's stories about geezers being caught shaking the animals. And I know. And this is what I can't stress to everyone. You do one stupid thing, 2020, and it still bites you on the ass. Me thinking there's no harm in dropping a bag. Literally, no harm. There's no harm. It's only a bag. Drop that bag off.
Right, so we've got an exclusive story today with Frank. Now, Frank looks like a mild-mannered, handsome chap, but he was convicted of conspiracy to supply Class A 299 kilograms with an £80 million street value. And we are going to be getting to that. His co-defendants, in the end, there was 28 years some of them got, did they?
Yeah, it got dropped to 23.
Whoa.
Because they got it, they give them, I think, a bit of a importation thing, and it wasn't that. They were the main conspirators.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, huge thank you for coming on and sharing your story with us, Frank.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So how did you end up getting in this mix?
Do you know what? It's a small... I'm from a little town, Epping. It's a small little area. There's a lot of that sort of money around there, and one of four brothers, you get quite popular in a little town, and it just, coming from a poor background, not, you know, really poor, but we was a council family, you get a little, do you know what? I think I could do that. I was rubbish at school, got no education, so, you know, you think, maybe I could earn some money out of that, and... you know, a friend of a friend of a friend, and then do you want to earn some money and do this? And the rest is history as such.
What was your entry-level job into that world?
Entry level? I suppose doing, you know, from a friend to a friend, getting a bit of a reputation like that. I had an older brother who was out and about in pubs, and it was just... I don't drink, don't take drugs, I'm reliable, and I think someone's obviously got to somebody somewhere, and they've just said, you know, can fancy dropping a bag off for money that probably would have took me a month to earn. I was scaffolding when my son he's 18 now. When he was born, you got to go and get a job. So, you know, you think you're working your nuts off, not got no money, and you think something's got to give, and then some arsehole asks you to go and do something like that.
That's interesting, because I had a guy called Cody Bates. People can Google this. Courtney Bates, R.I.P. He committed suicide in a Scientology rehab.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, he didn't do drugs or drink, and he was totally reliable, and he looked very preppy.
Yeah.
And he ended up becoming my right hand man because he was just, he'd go on these missions and the police would pull him over and he'd be like, just look at me, basically. How innocent am I? And they'd let him go.
Yeah, I guess.
And
got to play with to your strengths what you've got.
I can understand that skill set because he had that exact skill set.
I don't think I probably never would have been pulled over. Probably thinking about it. Well, who's going to? I wouldn't have gone with my kids, but I was quite from a young age. I was quite level-headed, and being one of four brothers in our little town, you're quite well known, but not in any ways of being these this family of freaking gangsters or any rubbish like that.
And you was known as the Milky Bar Kid. That's how innocent.
Well, I just looked like that. I think when I got arrested, I had long blonde hair. I was probably 8 stone, fucking wringing wet, and I remember sitting there thinking, "Oh my god!" And it was I was called freaking Johnny Bravo at school. Remember him? And but being I was quite popular, probably too popular at school, because I think you find out if you think back, I think everyone would agree, the popular kids at school tend to peak early, don't they? And they do really well, and then you think they don't really do anything with themselves when they leave school. They get stuck into either what I got stuck into or go and get a normal job. And all the popular kids at my school were probably builders, which is a good job, but they don't go on to being lawyers and God knows what else.
So how old were you when you switched into the criminal world?
Do you know what? It was sort of part and parcel with scaffolding and that, but I was probably, how old was I? 20, maybe 21. Just saw an avenue, a path that I thought was a good idea at the time to go down, and I had a son, which is a bad excuse because it's not a really good thing you want to leave your son, but it was purely money, and I come from a family with no money, and when I think I was 17, my mum, we lost our house through not having money, and it was the house we all lived in. So I think that probably affected me more than I thought. And I thought, I just don't want to be poor. And you see these guys, they're not clever. They're...
So are you saying then that in the beginning you were transporting, distributing, selling? What was your areas?
Probably a little bit of selling to a friend on a night out myself. And then it just snowballs. Like even if I started a business back then and got into something and had a role model as such in business, I probably would have done, I definitely would have done better. Even down to, I bought a house when I was 20, scaffolding, and if I stayed scaffolding and kept that house, it would be, I think I looked at it a while ago, that it was 167,000 I bought it for. It's worth like £380,000 now. You'd be sitting on 300 grand. You think you go in something to make money and you end up making nothing. And
all right, so you got this entry level position then. How did you advance from that?
I think it was just word of mouth. Someone rings you, can you come and do this? And then it was just the hierarchy of the bigger the crime. But even, I knew I was dropping money off. I knew it was drugs. I knew I was dealing with dodgy people, but I did never think it was that much.
Were you told not to look in the bag?
Yeah, I couldn't have. They were all it was in shopping bags. It was literally, get a phone call, you're going up north. Can you drop these bags off? Meet a geezer in Faden Boys. Met a bloke, silver car, take them. Followed him up north.
Kind of like it was shown in Top Boy, where they sent the kid to Manchester with the bag and they said, don't look in the bag. And then he gets off the train and then these older guys pick him up and take the money in.
Probably, yeah. It's you never get told, do you? You know what you're doing, but you never sat down with, the people involved, the top men. I probably never ever would have known them, and probably walked past them in the street and not known them.
So transporting a bag then?
Yeah, a couple of bags it was.
Not knowing what's in it. These journeys are multi-hour journeys, are they?
Yeah.
Is it car, train?
Car though.
What's going through your head on these journeys? Are you cognizant of cops, possibly?
Do you know what? I probably, being a bit stupid, I don't know, but I just looked at it as in it's work. I'm just going to work. I joke around and say I'm going to work and people would be like, it's not going to work. But I was quite calm. But I was calm, and didn't drive erratically. I was reliable. Don't drink, don't smoke. I love the odd drink, but I don't drink, don't smoke. And I think pretty trustworthy that I was going to turn up and I wasn't going to, take the bags. I think, I was 25 when 25 when I'd done this. So it was quite easy to manipulate a 25-year-old skinny bloke with young kids as well.
And on these journeys, were there any mishaps, or was it all plain sailing?
It was all pretty much plain sailing, yeah. There was never any points where I thought to myself, shit, I'm in trouble here.
So like you needed to take a piss, would you take the bag with you, or would you just leave it in the car?
It.
You'd hold it?
Yeah.
You wouldn't let it out your
sight?
I'm
a big boy. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't do anything until it's done. You drop something off, and then I'll drive there, drop it off, and then come back, and
you'd hold onto your bladder until it was done.
Yeah. And and then it would literally just be going back, get another phone call. And that's it, really.
How did you receive payment?
It was just like cash, but just through somebody I know. It was like, somebody who I know would say, here's the money from that job, sort of thing.
So someone would show up after you'd completed the mission and just drop
or
cash
a couple
off
of days later.
you.
Yeah, it wouldn't be done straight away. It'd be, you get it when you're given, sort of thing.
What was the frequency of these jobs?
Do you know what? It varied. It could be busy sometimes, and then other times not at all. It just varied. And I think these people must have different people for different things, using them for different things as such.
If you couldn't look in the bag, were you curious to perhaps, what if there was drugs or weapons put in a bag?
Yeah. I'm never curious in the way where I'd look, because I think out of sight, out of mind, and I think that maybe would have kept thinking, going to prison and all that now, thinking back, it's probably the best way for someone to do that, because then they're not panicking. You could have walked them bags through, I don't know, customs if you really didn't worry about it, because it was just one of the, because of you don't know what's in it. If you knew that there was something in it, obviously, thinking back then, if I knew it was guns, that would have been, I know drugs is probably just as bad, but if I knew it was guns, you'd think, well, I don't know about this. But I was never told. You was never told. But the people that you're told by somebody gets you in, not gets you in, but offers you the job, the company they keep, and you think to yourself, they're not going around, shooting people and God knows what else.
How long was you working for this criminal enterprise?
Not long. Year.
1 year?
Maybe not even that. Didn't even get a good run at it.
So over that year then, did anything unusual or dramatic, out of the ordinary happen? Apart
from actually this job, nothing was. I was quite a quiet. I'd done this, went home. I don't go out and drink. Went home and had my kids. And then before this happened, I split up with my children's mum and went and lived on my own, like in a flat. And I literally just didn't go out. I wasn't a recluse or anything like that, and it wasn't. I just would scaffold, do the odd job for this, and then just go home and see my kids weekends, or when I could, Wednesday nights. But all the weird stuff started happening after, literally the day of this job, and then after that, of dropping these bags off. I went into a little cafe in Faden Boys' bakery.
Is this the last mission?
The last job, done, yeah.
Just describe how that mission was presented to you in the beginning.
Do you want to drop these bags off, and you'll get good money for it? And I was told good money. What that is, I still to this day don't know what that was.
What was your usual rate for something like that?
I don't know. It was. You could get 500 quid, £1,000, depending on what you in their eyes, what you're dropping off, what's worth it. But good money sort of tweaked my, because I was never told, you're going to get good money for this. So I thought to myself, this could be, not on that scale, I didn't realise, but it could have been.
So you agreed to it. What happened next?
So I got the phone call, you got to meet this guy in, this is mad, got to meet this guy in Faden Boys in a silver car. I knew it was going up north, just told it's going up north, follow this car. So I've gone in the bakery in Faden Boys before to get a sandwich and that, because I'm thinking I'd rather get it all now and eat it in the car on the way there. I don't want to stop. And I walked in the bakery, and it's empty, and there's a guy sitting in the window, just sitting there. I sort of took a little bit of notice of him, but didn't take big notice of him. And then walked and ordered a sandwich and that. And the woman behind the counter, still remember it to this day, she said, "Does anybody want anything else?" And like implying someone's been there too long. And I thought, it's me. I've just walked in and there's someone there. She didn't know me. No, so as I was walking out, I sort of glimpsed at him and saw his coffee cup. And top of his coffee cup, there it was, all like scummy. So it looks like the coffee's been there an hour. And I thought to myself, why is he sitting? I knew I'm doing something dodgy. And I've quickly looked at him, took that split second. He's wearing outdoor clothes, outdoor shoes, outdoor jacket, got a bag next to him. And then he had a skin-coloured earpiece in his ear. And then I thought, fuck. And I thought, knowing that Essex was a bit of a dodgy area, but like anywhere else is. And you think, is it for me now? So the guys got out this silver car, give me the bags, and I said, I've just seen this thing in the cafe. He's going, oh, don't worry, it's not for us. We're going up north. So I thought, fair enough. Followed the car up north, drove up there.
When he said that to you, did it reassure you, or was there a niggling doubt?
It reassured me because of do you know what? When you're not, I'm not very academic. Wasn't at school, and when you've had, I don't know, you have that insecurity. And people say stuff to you and maybe reassure, and you think to yourself, yeah, fair enough. And this is the problem with, when you're not academic and you've not got decent role models, this is what ends up pushing you into things like this, because you feel like you can't go and get a decent job as such. So it sort of reassured me. But then we drove off, and there's a pond at Fading Boys, and I've looked, and I thought...
When you say we drove off, is it two cars?
Yeah, I just followed me, and I just followed this silver car.
You're following the silver car at this point.
And drove off, and the guy from the cafe standing at the pond in a orange, fucking bright orange Mac. And I've looked and thought, that's a bloke from the cafe. Didn't think nothing of it. Drove up there and drove Pontefract Castle, it was, into a car park. And I've pulled over to the side, and I'm just letting them talk. Got waved over, pulled next to him, literally got out, opened the boot, lifted the bags up. And they're having a conversation. I've nodded, put the bags in their boot, which they were going to, and they were swearing a lot. And you think to yourself, it's strange. Like when you have a conversation with someone in that world, I don't think people are not fucking, you fucking. And I thought, you think to yourself, that was a bit weird. And then quickly looked at them, and they didn't have nice jeans on, or a nice jacket, or a nice watch. And you think, in that world, as again being naive, you just think, they didn't look the part either. They were like rough looking blokes, but where they were up north, I didn't have a clue. I lived in a little town in Epping. Up north as people on TV sort of thing. So I thought to myself, anyway, didn't think nothing of it. So shut the boot, said I'm going, left them to it, drove off. And then driving back, I've pulled in a petrol station in Leeds. Yeah, but in Leeds. And then the silver car's coming behind me, what you doing? I said, I've just looked. No, I need some petrol. They've gone, all right. So I'm filling up with petrol. I think he's gone in to get something. And a white van's pulled in. I've looked to the left, and the geezer from the CAF in Epping, in Fading Boys, which is 100 odd miles away, I don't know, has got out of the car, and you think, shit. And that moment I thought, this is it, I'm fucked. So I've quickly run in the petrol station and said, that's a bloke from the cafe earlier. I told you something was wrong. And the geezer just said, get away from me. So I thought, fuck this. So I'm looking about, thinking, what do I do? And I've sort of hovered around the shop, and then I've gone into the toilet, and quickly, when you just... everyone makes these split second. So I've thought, right, the toilet. I'll go in the toilet over there, and I've gone in the toilet, and the window is above the toilet. So I've stood on the toilet looking out the window, and it's literally watching the exit onto the motorway. So I'm sitting there waiting, thinking, I'm not moving till that van goes. And then the cars are pulled out, and then the van's pulled out after the silver car. And I thought, right, so I've relaxed a little bit. Gone and paid for my petrol. Got back in the car, and I'm thinking, fuck, what do I do? And you know not to use your phone and things like that. And I'm thinking, shit, what do I do? So I've drove back really slowly, and then got back to my area, rung somebody and said, what's happened? And I was told, I was probably imagining it. Do you know, you think,
No.
really? And I remember saying, I know I'm not the sharpest tool in the box, sorry. But I did not fucking imagine seeing a bloke and it was definitely him, see him in Faden Boys and see him again getting out of a car in
Leeds, did you
Leeds.
say? Epping to Leeds, that's hundreds of miles, isn't it?
Yeah. I think,
possible.
yeah. It's impossible. And it was definitely him. What, thinking back now, do you know, you tell your story to mates in prison, they go, you should have gone up to him and said to him, oi mate, weren't you the one? Because it would have stopped the whole thing, wouldn't it? No one would have got nicked. Weren't you the bloke in blah, blah, blah? Open the van and would have seen a camera or God knows. But later on, probably jumping forward, but that meeting in that car park, there was a camera filming us, and my brief's come in, and this was like whilst I was on remand, and he's showing me this video, and he's going like, Frank, because they was going to try and bail me, it was going to go for bail because they just had my DNA on a car at the time, no, on a pair of glasses in a car, and I didn't get picked out in a ID parade by the undercover officers, which it's probably a bombshell because I've not mentioned it. They were undercover officers who we were buying the drugs from, and they. So I'm watching this video, and at the bottom of the video, you can see me walk into a car, getting in a car, and it's running out, and I'm thinking there's 3 seconds left. I'm like, you can't tell that's me. And my brief went, wait, 3 seconds left. I get in the car, open the car door, and I turn over my shoulder to have a look, and the camera goes wallop on my face. And I was like, and I was on remand, and the meeting before, do you know what it's like? Do you know when you're having barristers, they just don't give you any good news, do they? And I'm like, can you please give me some good news? Because my family, I'm ringing my family and telling them, no. And he's like, what do you do? And after that, funny enough, that meeting with the brief where the camera goes on my face, he used to come up and we'd chat about football, because it would be like, we decided I was going to plead guilty, but he said, don't plead guilty. Now, I didn't have a clue about prison. Don't plead guilty now because you lose all your, you'll be able to wear your own clothes and your canteen and things like that. He said, leave it a little while. He said, you'll still get your third off. So I went guilty at probably the latest opportunity I could. But
all right, hold on a sec.
Yeah, going back to... Yeah, so
you got home, you've been told you've imagined it.
Yeah, that pissed me off a bit. But all these people that you're telling, you sort of... This is going to sound really shallow and stupid, but you sort of look up to them because of... And it maybe because of money, or maybe, deep down inside, did I want to be part of this exciting gangster world? I remember mum telling me, watching the Craze film, do you know, the Kemp brothers, like, stop watching that, what are you watching that for? Because I watched it probably too many times. But I don't think I wanted to be in a gangster and in this world or anything like that, but I think it was maybe a cop-out of thinking, I couldn't be a lawyer, I couldn't be a solicitor, I couldn't get a good job. I just, I got expelled from school. I got suspended, expelled from school, and the headmaster in our school wasn't bad. It was just naughty, climbing on the roofs, doing stupid things. And it's a funny story. As a kid, we got caught smoking on the roof, and I'm in the meeting with all our parents, and I said, no, we wasn't smoking. I had a piss up there because it was cold. It was a steam from the piss. And the whole room just started laughing. So it was just that stupid clown who just... But I think when I took things seriously, at sport at school and things like that, I could be serious. So I think maybe that come in, with a little bit of a dodgy group of people looking over your shoulder. They thought this kid could be quite reliable. That's how I look at it, I suppose.
So you've got back. They're saying you're imagining it. Does that mean you continue to do more missions?
No, that was it.
All right.
I was never called again.
What happens next then?
So for me, nothing. But obviously going to court, I find out that they organise to pick the drugs up and things like that. But in between that...
Hold on. Your arrest?
My arrest? Well, no, there's something in between that as well. I pick my kids up on a Wednesday. Take them out on a Wednesday night. And I've picked my 2 kids up. Deep down, I've not told all my family and all that, but I knew I've dropped a clanger in. I knew something... I knew, I didn't know. Do you know, you think, I'm going to get arrested and all that. I don't know. I'm green as you like. So on the Wednesday, I go and pick my kids up, and I'm getting a bit not getting upset. We was at High Beach, always remembering it. The sun was setting. It was a beautiful night. The kids were playing. I remember watching them thinking, is this going to be the last time I'll see him? And I remember sitting there and I got emotional. And I mean, my daughter was only little. And she's going, Daddy, why is your face cry? Or something silly. And I was like, no, nothing. Anyway, so we're driving home. No, so I dropped them off. And then I had the kids again a couple of days later, which was of a night. And it was unknown for me to do it. And I'm driving back from Harlow to Waltham Abbey where they lived. And I don't know, it's probably 10, 15 miles. And I've looked in the mirrors and I thought, I can see a helicopter behind me. And being a bit paranoid because I've seen the job go off. And you think to yourself, ain't for me. It's not for me. I'm just a fucking little idiot from Epping. And I'm driving now from Harlow, getting to Epping, and I'm thinking, helicopters are fast. Why has that not gone over the top of me? So I'm driving all the way to Waltham Abbey. It's still behind me. And I'm thinking, it's by now. That helicopter should have, wherever it's going, it should be there. Pulled into my kid, it's like a cul-de-sac. My kid's house is in this cul-de-sac in Waltham Abbey. I pulled in and the helicopter's stopped above my kid's house. And I remember thinking, shit, this is going to happen in front of my kids. And you just think, and I'm not one of them who's going to start fighting and all this with the police. But you shit you see on TV, they're going to kick the crap out of you. 5 police cars block the avenue up. One comes flying in, they jump out, and then they start screaming and shouting at each other. And it seemed a little bit like they didn't know what they was doing. And I thought, what's going on here? So I'm straight away, I'm trying to get distance from my kid's house and my kids. And I've gone down the steps. And everything all right. And they've gone, yeah, have you? And one of them shouting from another car, I don't know, have you seen someone covered in blood? And it was a bit, I thought that was a bit vague. And I said, what do you mean? He said, have you seen that we're looking for someone covered in blood? And I was like, no, we've not seen nothing. And they've gone, oh, okay, got back in the cars and drove off. And I thought, that was fucking weird. Later looking in, only then jumping past, so it's relative. Later looking in my case, after I've dropped the money off, that Wednesday night, a Wednesday night afterwards, I can't remember the dates, but at the time, I used to drop my kids off about 7 o'clock. Someone's gone to pick the drugs up and called it off about 7 o'clock, called the job off. Something ain't right. The first time they've gone to pick the drugs off, something came right, called it off and gone back, and it was around the sort of time I dropped my kids off. So whether I don't know, but whether the police have turned up and pulled in to nick me, and then they've said, fucking stop, they've called the job off. Because if they nicked me then, there's no crime because the drugs haven't been picked up, sort of thing. So
that's definitely what happened, I think. What's weird here is, the guy I told you about, Cody Bates, my guy.
Yeah.
He got arrested exactly the same as you with the helicopter. He saw it and he's thinking, this is like Goodfellas, the helicopter's following me.
Yeah, that's what you do think. You think, surely not me.
He drove from one side of town to the other and it was still
the
same as what you said.
I've spoke to people like when I was away and they just laugh at me saying, like, how did you not know? Because like helicopter goes, I don't know, 500 miles an hour and I'm stuck in traffic thinking, and I've been told like, as well, a helicopter can watch you like 3-4 miles away. But that's not how I got arrested.
His arrest didn't get postponed. The helicopter was following him, and then he was on the motorway, and he saw all these police motorbikes, and they just completely surrounded him and took him off the motorway.
Really?
Yeah.
They done. So in our case, it was quite funny. The van, the guy who picked the van up, he's started the car and drove off down the motorway. And they reckon the police drove ahead and jackknifed a lorry because their mobiliser didn't work. So he shouldn't have drove off. But after all of this, like I mentioned to a guy that got me in and us, about it's a bit fishy and things like that. I said, why don't you all just, after I'd said that, I said, why don't you just turn up in free motorbikes? I said, and if it is dodgy, one motorbike gets nicked and you've got away with the rest. And like he just said, I said, like something stinks. Surely you ain't going to go through with this. And then they was like, no, don't worry about it. So when I left, I thought, right, they're not going to go through with it as such. That I was just dropped a bag of money off, and I don't know whether I dropped drugs off, money off, but I was a bit like, well, what happens next? And it was like, don't worry about it.
All right, so the cops have come and cancelled arresting you.
Maybe, yeah.
What happens next?
So, I'm in a little town near me, and I get a phone call. You know that job you done the other day? I'm like, yeah. He went, he's gone over. And I'm like, right, what does that mean? And he's gone like, we're fucked. I said, what do I do now? He said, get out of the country. Do whatever, just fuck off. And I was like, are you kidding me? I'm like, I'm one of 6 kids. We're a tight-knit, close family. I've got kids. I've got 2 kids. I've got a son and a daughter. And I'm thinking, fuck, like, what do you mean get out of the country? And he's like, see you later. So I'm thinking, shit, what do I do? And that's when I decide to think, shit, keep it low, or just literally do one.
Before this moment, had you contemplated your options if this moment was to arise?
No, I was going to carry on and just hope for the best. I was going to carry on scaffolding, hope for the best, hope nothing happens, hope it all disappears, bury your head in the sand sort of thing. And you know where you're a minute part of it, you sort of think, I'll be all right. You know, they don't want them, but no, you know. So yeah, and then coming back from Thailand, on an aeroplane.
Hold on. Why did you go to Thailand?
I just had to get away.
Okay.
And I had like these stupid ideas about arrest warrants and European arrest warrants, and I thought I'd go to Thailand and be a bit of a beach bum for a little while.
What was the gap between the call where he said go overseas and you going to Thailand?
Probably 2 months from me getting the call and getting arrested.
Did anything unusual happen in those 2 months?
No. I was kept such a low profile. No, not even.
Were you starting to think you had got away with it by the end of those 2 months?
No. I went to Thailand because I didn't want my family to get involved in it. My family didn't even know where I was. I just said, I've got to go. I'm not telling you what I'm doing, where I'm going. And I just literally got as much money as I could together, borrowing money and that, and then just disappeared. And then I thought I could go and be a beach bum in Thailand, living sort of under the radar as such. Because I thought, you're watching telly and you think, you get arrested in Europe, you'd be taken back to England, blah, blah, blah. And I thought to myself, where could I go? I probably wouldn't get in Australia. And I thought I'd try Thailand. And then... were
you in a dilemma of preparing them for your arrest, but not being able to tell them what you'd done?
I told them I messed up. I've messed up and I'm in trouble. And they're like, what sort of trouble? I said, don't worry, I'm not messed up where I'm going to get killed. They know that. That's
a relief.
Yeah, do you know what you think? I've messed up and I might get arrested, sort of thing. And they didn't know how severe it was. Well, I didn't know how severe it was. And then and I decided to come back from Thailand. Just had enough.
Was it fun in Thailand?
No, I didn't enjoy it.
Was it weighing you down?
Personally, and all my family are, we're such a family orientated family. I just sat there, hated every day, missed everything, and I remember sitting there in Thailand thinking, I've sacrificed so much. What a fucking idiot! All for a bit of money, not knowing that that was just a minute of what's coming. And you just think to yourself, you don't think, even in prison, I just take each day as it comes. I still do now, and I think I did before. You just think, right, I just wake up in the morning and then get on with it. But yeah, I was sitting out there thinking, I've had enough, I missed my kids. And, I become single probably a year before all this happened. So, it was still raw. I wasn't living with my kids, so I missed them still probably from then. So it was just a thought of, right, I'm going to go back and face the music.
So you get on
and
a
see
plane.
What happens. Oh yeah. Well, when I was in Thailand, what decided it was a friend of mine who hired a car for me. He got raided, and that was the deciding moment. And this guy was a really, really nice, posh, like not posh, but just really nice. Never got involved in crime. And his house got raided by soccer, and they don't go lightly, do they? And it was like, shit.
Soccer?
Yeah, serious organised crime agency, which I think they're the national crime agency now. I think they're like a business, just go bust every time. But I think they're all hand-picked, aren't they? They're not police officers anymore. They're hand-picked, and I think they're civil servants. I'm only finding out through your paperwork, but they're the squeakiest clean, the best of the best, sort of. I think they go around the world training these police forces now. So yeah, they was in charge of the case. They was the ones who Now, once I get the paperwork, I find out all of this, but they were the ones in charge of the case. And our case starts like you've opened the middle of a book. Like one of your books, you open the middle and you think, what the hell? And it's literally a meeting in Waltham Abbey with this Colombian guy saying, right, hello, blah, blah, blah. The Colombian guy's like, oh, here's a phone number, ring that. And they're like, you're not here to pick the drugs up. We've got the drugs here. So what the fuck happened before? But then they said there was a thing called a PPI, which is a public protection or PPI? Public protection investigation. So they was protecting somebody. But my barrister said that he seems to think that they've arrested importers and then they've just become the importers. And then just, the importers obviously said, I'll give you, I can, if you let me off or whatever. We still don't know to this day what happened before then, but it opened in the middle of a book.
So you're on the flight back home?
Yeah, on a flight back home, sitting next to an Australian kid, and he's never been to England, about my age, chatting away. I'm telling him, go to Wimbledon, because it was sort of like June when I got arrested. And so the job all happened March. I dropped the money off, and then the drugs were picked up, and the guy in the van was jackknifed on the motorway in June the 22nd, I think. And then June. And then I got arrested in June. April the 22nd, the drug job was, and then I got arrested in June. So I'm on the airplane, come back, chatting to this Australian kid, telling him everything, do this, do that, and go to this place, go to that place, and he's loving it, and we're chatting away, and I didn't really go out in London. I was quite, stayed around my area, but I'm telling him these places, and I always was interested, so I'm telling him historical places to go, not like nightclubbing like young people should do. I'm like an old man in a young bloke's body. And we're sitting away chatting. I remember the woman sitting there, a bit older than me, and a bit of turbulence. We're looking at each other. Oh, that one was the big one. And then we've landed, and they've said, we've all got up, and they've said, can everybody sit back in their seats? No, can everybody sit back in their own seats for health and safety reasons? Come over on a tunnel. And I'm thinking, I've been on enough flights to know, fuck. And there's still a part of you thinks it might not be for me. I don't know why. I'll find out later on. I'll leave that to telling the story. I'll find out later on my kids are outside and my mum's outside waiting for me. Anyway, so I've sat back down the seat, I've put the earphones on, and I still remember it. Do you know that song English Country Garden? I'm listening to that, and I'm opening my eyes and I'm thinking, right, what's going on? And then all of a sudden, two officers in uniform have come on, and then two plainclothes officers have come on. And air hostess is pointing over to my area, and I'm thinking, oh, it's me. Do you know, and you think, even then, you're thinking, no, it is me. And the plainclothes police officers have come down the aisle and said, are you Frank Stedman? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, you're nicked. And I was thinking in my head, no shit. But me knowing I'm not aggressive or anything like that, I've stood up, and this is what I can't stress to people so much. I was a normal, happy-go-lucky kid a couple of years before, and then we had shit maybe with losing the house, and I was pretty naughty at school, but I was a happy-go-lucky kid. So I've stood up from my seat, and the bloke stuck the gun in my head, get back in your seat. And do you know, you think you're a normal kid a couple of years before, and you're sitting in an aeroplane with a gun at your head. That is how easy. I can't explain to, and I know every time you turn the news on at the moment, some kids, I think recently, the other day, some 15-year-old stabbed another 15-year-old to death. Like, you can't explain, within a couple of years of a couple of bad choices, you've got a gun at your head. So my little aeroplane's fucking erupted. This poor Australian kid sitting there thinking, what the fuck?
All the passengers are watching.
We've sat on an aeroplane, and it was a straight flight from Thailand. So we've been chatting for a long time, and the poor lovely woman sitting next to me screaming, and I'm like, I'm just getting my bag. But the soccer agent put his hand on the bloke's shoulder, and the bloke's lowered his gun. I said, I'm just getting my bag. And then the lady soccer agent has said, I'll get it for you. And we've walked off. And then they've stopped me at the end of the aeroplane, mentally checking my pants, thinking, have I shit myself? And so I've stopped off the aeroplane, and they've stopped. So we've got off the airplane, they've stopped me, and then everyone's come off the airplane and walked past me. And I'm looking at the floor thinking, do you know, I'm embarrassed. I'm not one of these people who thinks they're hard for getting fucking arrested. I'm looking at the floor thinking, close your eyes, close your eyes. And I'm looking up and there's still people walking past and I'm handcuffed. And then we're walking out and only good thing, get arrested in the airport, you don't queue. Didn't queue up, straight through. And we're walking out and I said, we went to immigration and they said, give them your address. And I said to this was the airport police, I haven't got an address. And he's, I think he swore, I think he said, you're immigration, mate, you've got to give a fucking address. And he sort of put my back up a bit. And I said, mate, it looks like I'm going to prison anyway, so what do you need an address for? I said, I've been in Thailand for a few months and I was living off my mate's sofas because I used to have an address a year ago, but I've moved out from there. So I'll give my mum's address and a mate's address. So I was sleeping on the sofa, that was really bad because he was having a massive family wedding and the soccer's gone round there and his dad's picked family up from Singapore and pulled up to his house and there's police all over his fucking house. You know, you think, and still to this day, I don't think the parents forgive me for that. He's a good mate, but do you know, you think they've pulled up and there's fucking, and you know, even now you think to yourself, what a fucking idiot. All this shit you've caused over a bit of money. That's all it's for, it's a bit of money, which, you know, anyway. And so I'm coming off the aeroplane and this copper's giving me the ump a little bit and gone to the next thing and this guy's swabbing my bag. I took hand luggage and he said, what's he been arrested for? And he said, conspiracy to supply Class A. And when he said it, I'm thinking to myself, right, what the fuck does that mean? And I knew it's drugs and I'm thinking, shit. So straight away you're thinking, like, there must have been drugs in that bag, not money. Or was there money in that bag? I don't know. But then part of me, like you said earlier, thinks, at least there weren't guns in there. And he said, there's traces of cocaine in this bag. And I've just bought that bag, literally in Thailand. And I'd the ump a little bit because this guy's sort of put me back up. And I said, no, there fucking ain't. And the policeman said, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. I said, no, there's not drugs in that bag. There was never. It's a brand new bag. He said, well, there's traces of it. And the bloke stepped back and he looked like a bit of a job's worth, the airport bloke. And they said, don't worry about it, it won't come up in the case. And later on, luckily I pleaded guilty because it come up in the case. He had traces of cocaine in a rucksack. So that in a case like that, it makes you look like you're travelling the world with a rucksack of... It would do, wouldn't it? So I'm so glad. My brief told me, you've got to plead guilty because you'll get caught up in all the drama of this. And they know what they're doing. They were so clever. They didn't bombard our case with loads of evidence, people to wriggle out. They were so clever, the police, with it. And so we've gone off, and then I didn't realise the airport police handed me over. Oh no, that was it. I said, I think my kids are outside, and my mum, and they've gone, don't worry, wrap a jacket. This is airport police. Wrap your jacket around your handcuffs. And I'm thinking, really? And they're holding you. They're not like just letting you walk. And then the soccer agent takes him in a room. Says 1 minute, takes him in a room, and the policeman come out, the airport police, pure white. And you know, you think, what the fuck's he just said to him? And he said, we're going to take you out a side door. And, you know, call me what you like. But later on that night, after all the, early hours in the morning, I shook the policeman, the soccer agent's hand and said, I found out through my barrister my kids were outside. I appreciate that. You can't... Not everyone's an arsehole. Good people do good things and bad people do good things and good people do bad things sometimes. I just thought, you know what, it deserves a handshake. My kids, it's traumatic for kids that. I was pretty much a kid myself, really. So, and then I get arrested and that's when I found out. When I got arrested in a police station, you say, right, Miss Stedman, I'm remanding you in custody and it's 299 kilos of cocaine. You think, fucking hell, really? And that's when I start thinking, shit, I'm in trouble here. Which I knew I was. But when they didn't bail me, because the airport policeman's going, don't worry, you'll get bail. And where they didn't bail me, and I went to court the next day, and the Serco people who take you in and out of court, they're all going mental when they read out my case. They're singing and dancing and in the back they're going, fucking Pablo, look. Everyone, look at this. He's wearing trainers and a pair of jeans and a T-shirt. Not knowing that I'm a fucking minute part of this, dropping a bag of money off. But the court make it sandbagged, so you don't get it. And I'm sitting there thinking, what the fuck? And like every day, you're just taking each day as it comes. It's all new. I've not even been arrested before. It's all new to me. You get done trespassing because, you know, there's a broken window in like a youth centre and you climb in there and things like that, but not to this scale. Yeah, and then they get remanded in custody and go from, I think it was at Kentish Town Police Station. Yeah, then went to Wormwood Scrubs.
When we wake up in the morning, we get out of bed and we start our day with Coro snacks. Coro is a healthy snacks brand focusing on bringing additive-free, natural ingredients to their customers with fair prices in bulk packaging. They have everything from nut butters to free from baking ingredients to cooking essentials and, of course, the snacks. Look what's in this, Jen. It's the vegan power mix from Coro.
So we have a mixture of nut kernels, dried fruit, cacao nibs, soy crispies, and hemp seed hold.
Ooh. What are these little red ones? Look at this man.
That's good.
Fresh and healthy. The problem is when you buy these things online, they're never going to be fresh enough. This is high quality stuff. So what makes Coro special in comparison to others? Coro's quality management team carefully and regularly reviews the quality of their products. For a 5% discount on Coro's products, use the code TRUECRIME with no space in between true and crime. The link to Coro's online shop is in the description box on YouTube. Thanks for supporting our sponsor. So what happens when you go into remand? Do they strip search you? Do they?
Yeah. So I've got strip searched the first time I go through reception and they're asking blah, 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 all your crime and all that.
How invasive is the strip search?
I don't think it's too bad because you keep your t-shirt on, take your trousers down, shake your pants, but then afterwards, you get put on the seat. There's a seat where to see if you've got phones up your ass and things like that. But it wasn't invasive that first one, but then the ones I had afterwards because of being Cat-Aid, but I'll come to that. Being Cat-Aid like a month, August. So I got arrested in June, July, August around my birthday in August 10th. So getting Wormwood Scrubs, and I'm at the first night centre thinking, shit. And the first night centre, Wormwood Scrubs, a dorm. And you're up in the first night centre for a couple of days, and there's like one door. It's quite well designed. There's one door, and you can hear a big wing behind that door, and you're thinking, "What the fuck? That's like the belly of the beast. What is going on behind that door?" Away. Yeah, you put in a dorm.
That's a nightmare.
It is. I was lucky because of a guy's come to the door and he said, shouted out my name. I thought he was a prison officer. And I said, "Oh, that's me." So he'd just come back from Thailand and said, "Yeah." He's gone, "I'll come here." And as I'm getting closer, I see he's got a big scar on his face. It's not a prison officer. And he's opened the door and I saw him in prison clothes. And you think, am I going to get beaten up here? Do you know, like them things go through your head. So you can ask me to get in the shower. But we've gone and had a chat, and someone's made a phone call from outside, and he's just said, I'm being told to just keep an eye on you. Not keep an eye on you, but just keep an eye out, which was really helpful, really good for someone like me who's never been involved. And he's given me some canteen, gone back in the dorm, and the lad's like, "How did you get let out?" I said, "Oh, it's just a friend from a friend outside." It was only from our local, nothing to do with my case, but from our local area. And I was quite good at football, and I played men's football at 13. So I was involved with adults from the age of 13. I was involved in that Sunday pub culture, and I'm from that family where we spent our life down a social club. But so that was lucky. And then you're in a dorm, and you're up there for a couple of days thinking, shit, what's behind that door? And then you get sent down, get found, get given your cell.
Was it easy to sleep in the dorm?
No. At the first, I was really tired because I was on an aeroplane. We was up all night, so I probably did sleep. But I'm quite good at sleeping, so I could sleep pretty much anywhere. But you hear them horror stories, don't you, about prison, and you think, is that going to happen? But I thought to myself, I'll just fucking, I don't know. You don't really know what to happen if it does happen, if anything dodgy happens. But you sort of do. You probably don't sleep as deep as you do, but when I got out, it's probably when I started sleeping the best. You think, oh, thank God. But then you have later on, I tell you, dodgy dreams. Like my missus leant over me one night when I got out, and to get a bottle of water, and I fucking jumped up and like pushed her up against the thing, like freaked out. But it's I think that's down to when security come in your cell. When you're cat age, you get this was in Belmarsh later on. Security come in your cell and they search your cell, but they crack the door at like 5 a.m, let a dog in. Dog jumps up on you, you like, you know what it's like, and they're all dressed in black. It's all proper. They know what they're doing. And I used to dream about that. That's the only thing that didn't torture me as such, but I remember dreaming. And do you know that dream where you can't move and blokes in black suits? But it's not traumatized me in a way of where it affected me. But I think that did. And for a little while, my missus said I used to sit up in the night sweating, and this was on like home leaves. But
so you're in the dorm for 2 days.
So you're in the dorm for a couple of days, and then you get sent down onto the wing, and you're in like a cell, 2 of you with a bunk. You walk in, which is Wormwood Scrubs is an old prison. So you got one
cellmate.
One cellmate, but that changed over because I was there for a little while.
What was your first cellmate like?
Do you know what? I can't remember who it was. I remember going in there thinking, all right, mate, and I sort of know deep down. One of my friends said something when I bumped into him years later. Said like, if anybody would go to prison out of us lot, we would all put you up first because I'd get on with people. I know I could get on with people. I thought to myself, I'm not a fighter. I was quite popular at school. I know I could get on with people, and I'm pretty good at judging within a couple of seconds of a situation as such. These are the strengths that you find out after you've been in prison, not before. And coming out of prison, you think to yourself, I'm not that much of a fucking idiot really, and a scumbag. You don't realise, do you? But yeah, I remember going in there, and I used to hate that. Do you know when you're going into a new cell or moving prisons, I remember the worst time was when they was going to move me from Wormwood Scrubs, but I got settled. I was settled in Wormwood Scrubs, and it was an old prison. It was dirty, and there's a few things we'd kick. I remember a big African bloke's climbed over a railing, and there's nets in Wormwood Scrubs, but there's gaps, like me to you, with the net to the stairs. And this African guy, and he was massive, and he knew what he was doing. He's jumped off to jump down it. And this woman prison officer had his ankle, and she was screaming for people to help. And I quickly noticed prisoners weren't helping her, so I thought, I'm not helping her. But outside, I guarantee you, outside, anybody would go and help someone in that situation. But I just thought, why are no prisoners helping her? So I just stayed back, and she's holding on to this bloke. And I can't remember if he slipped, and he did hit the floor. I think anyway, I know they might have dragged him in, but they might have dragged him in. But I remember seeing her hold him and thinking, she's no way going to hold him. He looked like the best part of 18 stone. But imagine that, headbutting the floor. And Wormwood Scrubs, that has got 4 landings it had. And it's a high prison, that one. So yeah, I was in there, quite, say comfortable. Are you ever comfortable, Sean, in a prison?
You make the most of it, don't you?
Yeah, I like to have a laugh. So as much as even old people, if we spoke to our grandparents, even in the war, they probably had a laugh at some point. And there's that dark humour I think you get in prison, and I think the army, the military have got that dark humour. And I'm reading out I've got a little job now, so people come in for dinner, and I'd say, "Oh, Sean, we're vegetarian and frank and things like that." And I'd sort of had competitions with myself. So I was enjoying it, but I was sort of cosy. I was comfortable. And then the shit hit the fan again. Then in Wormwood Scrubs, so I was. So how did it start? So yeah, so that was it. So I get told I'm going to Leicester for pleads and deeds, and I'm ringing my brief, thinking I don't want to go to fucking Leicester. And he's like, no, Frank, it's pleas and deeds. You haven't got to go. And this Mr. Johnson, I think his name is Mr. Johnson. He was a screw from Wormwood Scrubs. He was a hard nut to crack, but when you crack him, he was an all right bloke. Had really good sense, really dry sense of humour. I was doing a piss test once, and he and I'm doing it, and I'm like, Gov, I can't go. He says, you can go, Stedman. I'm like, Gov, honestly, I can't go. And he sent me to get a glass of water, come back. Gov, I really can't go. And he shouted, it's not as if he's got far to fucking go, Stedman, just go. And it really made me chuckle. And so he had that sense of humour. So he comes and calls me and says, Stedman, you're going to court. And I'm like, all right, fair enough. He said, the warrant's been thing, you're going. So you think, right, I pack my stuff up, and then I'm going down to court, Wormwood Scrubs, going down, go through all the reception and getting released out of reception and onto a van, and they do a few drops. And I think I was like Milton Keynes way, and I get told, they shouted, "Oh, Stedman, you got your wish, you're going back to Wormwood Scrubs." And I actually was thinking, yes, go back to Wormwood Scrubs, go back into reception, and that prison officer's still there. And I think to myself, all right. And I said, "Oh, Gov, I told you I didn't have to go." Not being a smart aleck, but I was just like, I had a bit of a jokey thing with him. He used to be one of them, get behind your door sort of thing. And he didn't even look at me. Didn't say nothing. And I thought, that's weird, because he normally said, "Fuck off, Stedman," or something like that. So I'm walking back, got back, and I still remember it. It's 20 minutes left of Soch. So I've got back and I thought, sweet. So I've gone and sat outside, and I'm sitting on the yard with the two older blokes. I always got on with older like mates, blokes. So I'm sitting there and I'm in the yard and the sun's on my face and I'm thinking, yeah, and I'm nice. And I'm sitting there chatting to them. And I thought, thank God I didn't have to go. And I've heard the shout, "Stedman" again. I've looked and it was the SO. And my mate said, "What the fuck does the SO want?" Which is a senior officer on the wing. You hardly ever speak to the SO. If you've got a problem, you try and speak to him. But so I've got up and I said, "Oh, what's the matter, Gov?" And he's gone, "Oh, you've got a visit." And I thought, I spoke to my brief yesterday. He said he's not coming. So I thought, I don't know what this is. And as I'm walking down, I said, "What is it, Gov?" And he said, "I don't know." I said, "What? Who's the visit?" He's going, "I don't know." I'm thinking, this is weird. He's ignored me. No, this screw. And he wasn't the happiest kind of prison officer, but he wasn't even telling me where I was going. So we've gone down, and we've gone down to the visiting room, and I realised he took me into the legal visit bit. Cause sort of they're separated. They're like little rooms in Wormwood Scrubs. And as I've gone, I've looked and I've saw my brother Liam there. And it wasn't visiting day, and I just had an inkling something happened outside with someone dying, which who was involved with my older brother. And they've opened the door. My older brother, my brother Liam's looked at me, and I could tell by his face something bad's happened. I said straight away, I said, "Kane's died, didn't he?" And my brother said, "Yeah." So we've both got upset, and we're sitting down in the we're in the legal visit bit, and he was young, he liked to drink and things, and in my head I'm thinking, has he died? And then my brother's told me he committed suicide, and I sort of got the ump and banged the tables, and the woman, like prison officer from visits, has come in with a high vis. And she said, "Oh, can you put this on, please? Because I used to put like a tag on you." And I was like, "What for?" And she's gone, "Oh, you two look so alike. We was just saying we're not sure. We wasn't sure which one was the prisoner." So it sort of lightened the mood, and we sort of calmed down, and then we, sat there and chatted for a little while about it. And that was that shit. And I was in prison like a month, I think. And I went back to the wing, caught a glimpse of my mate who I got quite pally with, who was a listener, which in prison, it's other prisoners become like a bit of a counsellor. And he looked at me and I could tell he knew. And I said, "All right?" And he's gone, yeah, you all right? He said, because he was my mate and he was the listener, I think the governor told him. And he said, "I'll come and get you later for a cup of tea and come out when we're banged up." So he come and got me for, and that was shit. I remember waking up the next morning with, do you know that split second? You think, right, what am I going to do today? And it dawns back on you what's happened. But the weirdest, I don't know, are you spiritual, Sean?
Yes.
The weirdest thing, and I still laugh about it. My cellmate at the time, mannerisms, acted, even his feet stunk the same as my brother who died. And I was in the cell with him for 2 weeks, and when my brother died, he got moved to another wing in the prison. Steve Church, his name is. He got moved to another wing in the prison, and he even looked like him a little bit, and I never saw him again. And I think, was that 2 weeks with him, my 2 weeks with my brother? Because it was, honestly, I used to sit there and think to myself, fuck me, you are so much like my older brother. And the last time I saw my older brother was in a visit in Wormwood Scrubs. And he done a little bit, we was joking about canteen and that, because of he'd done, I think, 30 days for driving offence years ago. But yeah, that was shit.
So were you in a depression for a bit?
Do you know what? I'm quite good at not being depressed or not showing it. But I remember thinking, fuck, but you go a bit numb in there. You think to yourself, I can't deal with that right now. I've got to deal with being in prison. So I probably not dealt with it up to now. I don't know. But yeah, so
And your case was ongoing at this point.
yeah. Well, I was on remand for like 8 months, so I didn't know what was going to happen. Didn't know whether I was going to get out and not go to prison, like get sentenced. And I didn't, deep down, I knew I'd done something wrong. We all know when we overstep that mark. You can't sit here blaming a childhood trauma or all that. I know things don't help, but everyone knows when I overstep that mark committing crime. They just know that. And whether you think about it and then forget about it, but and this is the thing. How a normal kid can end up in like shit you commit crime. These are the prices you pay. So I've put in for to go to my brother's funeral, and got cat-A'd, and then got put in segregation.
All right. So, why did they cat-A you?
So they said the funds in my case, or the money in my case, will give you funds to break out. And I was in a category B prison at the time, which was Wormer Scrubs. And I'm like, I'm new to it. They come and told me, but it's all done properly. Like they told me to get to. Well, I got a job back up the first night centre now with the bloke, the nice bloke, and he's done the rounds, years in segregation. He knew it, and so they've come up, said, Stedman, get back in your cell, stand to the back of your cell, get on your knees, put your hands behind your back. And I'm thinking, what the fuck? But security used to come up now and again to the first night centre because they'd get inkling that someone's brought something in. So it was regular. But when they come up and called me, so they've told me, and I've gone into the cell to clear my stuff up. And this guy who's been in prison for years, he said, do you know what? When you was explaining your case to me, I was surprised that you was in this prison. And they told me I slipped the net. Whether, like you say, being nice and that, they don't look into it, I don't know. I was just, when I got cat-A'd, funny enough, went into Belmarsh, and they've come in and gone, Stephen, I've walked in, and he's looked at my thing and looked at my finger and said, fuck me, you ain't like the ones we get in here normally. And I didn't have a clue. I just thought he meant prisoners, because the prisoner before me was kicking off when you're getting processed. But yeah, so I put in to go to my brother's funeral. My family bought a suit up and everything, and they looked into letting me go to my brother's funeral, and that's how I got cat-A'd. They said, we're really sorry, but blah blah blah. But they never told me I was getting cat-A'd. Never told me I wasn't going to go to my brother's funeral because of, I think they didn't want me to kick off, so they put me in segregation. So I was in segregation for 10 days. Over my birthday, dealing with my brother's my brother's death and all that, and I don't know whether it helped or not. I don't know. It probably didn't. I was sitting in that cell with no telly, no nothing, no book, no nothing. And the only good thing was the bloke next to me used to shout out, waiter, to the prison officer. And the prison officer would come up, stop fucking calling me waiter, and slam the thing. So in them dark moments, there's a bit of light. Do you know what I mean? But it was done. I was put in the shower, locked in the shower. It was really treated. And they tried to persuade me not to have visits, but it was my birthday and my mum and my auntie was coming up. And this just happened with my brother. And, I'm close with my mum. And I'm like, no, I sort of said, no, I don't want to not have visits. So they had to shut. When they took me from the first night centre, they shut the whole wing that I've been on for a month. And I went down and there was a fucking avenue of prison officers. You still step back and like that body experience, you think, really? Because I know deep down, I'm not going to kick off. I'm not some sort of lunatic hardened, but I know all that is there for people that need that. You hear of these people breaking out of prisons on the football pitch with a helicopter. So I understand why it's there. I'm walking through and there's an avenue of screws. And I remember the screw that I knew from the bottom wing. And they're like, I thought he was all right. I said, so did I. And I'm walking down, I'm in segregation. And I always remember when they come and got me and said, right, good news and bad news. The governor's come and telling me, well, you might go to your brother's funeral, you might not, blah, blah, blah. Looking back now, being an adult who's been through all this, I should have known I weren't going to, but it's always, I don't know whether I always had that hope. That's probably maybe I didn't steep into depression. And, but I probably was depressed and such, laying there staring at the ceiling for 20, like these laughs, which I'm sure you'd agree with. These laughs you have in prison are for what, 10 minutes of a 24-hour day, Sean? You have one laugh and then you go back to surviving.
Cold steel.
Yes. And I think I was very numb, with my brother's death. I think I had to be. And where I was put in segregation, I don't remember thinking it, but I remember thinking, you know, this is going to make you or break you. I said, don't let it break you. Keep going, sort of thing. Just keep going. Wake up in the morning. That's all you got to do. Wake up in the morning. So I'm, you know, trying to tell myself that, and I'm doing it. And they come and got me from. Screws opened the door, and he said, "Good news or bad news?" I'm thinking, "Oh, this is good." I said, "Well, give me the bad news." He said, "You go in Belmarsh," and I've heard a few stories about Belmarsh. I think, shit. And then I remember saying, "It's the good news. I'm going to my brother's funeral," and the screw laughed. And I was like, I still remember thinking, you arsehole, and it sort of gives you a bit of fire in your belly now. But I understand I put myself there committing crime, and I knew what I was doing. I put myself there, but he's laughed and said, no, you get to watch England play football tonight. And so that was the 12th of August. So I got put in segregation on the 2nd. Yeah, and I've done 10 days, and I got out on the 12th of August, and then got taken when they took me out of segregation. How they design these things, I don't know. There was a van at the door, segregation. So it's come in the prison, and segregation's like in the middle of the prison in Wormwood Scrubs. And I stepped out of the door of segregation, and my actual next step was on the van. I tried to glimpse the sky, sort of thing, and it was that much. And I remember thinking then, why have they got a van? And it was a Cat A van, but it wasn't a prison van. It was a Cat A van, like an S41. You're in the middle of that, but it's glass. And I'm looking going through Oxford Street, and I'm looking at that thinking, Jesus Christ, this is the world again. So yeah, and then I went to Belmarsh.
What's it like entering Belmarsh?
The process is the same for me, but you know, walking into Belmarsh, and I come in. I remember coming in. It was lunch, and everyone queues up in the middle, and they're all looking at you, and the server's looking at you. And I'm not joking. I'm not big now, but I was probably 8 stone. And I knew in prison, the stories you hear, and you think, fuck, I'm in Belmarsh.
Was it a different league of prisoners?
Yeah, because I got put onto a little bit of a Cat A wing. But Cat A, the more serious the crime, I think the more serious the man gets. So if you're all right and you're decent, they sort of not take you under their wing. But there was 2 brothers in Belmarsh that took me under their wing. And I owe a lot to them because they give me a crash course in prison. They was constantly telling me blah, 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 blah. And they was known in the criminal fraternity as such. But yeah, I got onto this Cat A wing. But Belmarsh, every time the door opens, something happens. Kicks off every time.
Describe the first thing that happened.
I can't remember it chronologically, sort of thing, but I remember seeing a screw push another prisoner into another screw, and they beat the shit out of him. But the worst one was, so you'd feel the pressure all the time. There'd be pressure. Alarm would go off. They'd shut the cell. Alarm would go off, and so in the middle there was a big like African guy, and he looked like a strong African guy, but he was like, couldn't speak a word of English, really, really hard at African accent. He taped his hands up, I found out afterwards, and put all his paperwork, do you know, not staple, yeah, they staple clips go over the paper. Do you know, and he's put them on his hands, and this screw was supposedly bullying him. And this screw was hard work. He was bullying him. And in the middle, in Belmarsh, it's like spurs off of like a central hub thing. He's hit him, and it's kicked off, and the
Who's hit who?
The prisoners hit the screw after them getting face to face, and he's got on top of the screw and bit his cheek off. And this geezer, and if this was outside Sean, maybe this is what you should do, but all the screws started kicking him, like literally punching him, kicking him off. Do you know, like if a dog's bit you, no one can get it off. They was volleying this bloke, the prisoner, and he got dragged off, blah, blah, blah. And I remember the pressure, everyone behind me, look what they're fucking doing. I'm like, they're fucking booting him in the head. Got back to my cell after being banged up. A couple of minutes later, my cell's open. I thought, I'm not joking. The really quiet young prison officer, who was really quiet, was standing there, 4 screws behind him. What did you see earlier, Stedman? I went, nothing. But the good thing with Cat A, you're in a single cell. That is a good thing. And for me, the way I looked and the way I acted, I don't act because I can't fight and all that. I don't act like that, and I think people would see through it if you did anyway. With a big A plastered on your door, I think as much as like it fucks you up for visits and it stopped me going to see my brother's funeral and then things are horrific, it sort of helped me out every day because people see that A on your door and they think a little bit like, and then they get to know you and think, why are you okay? And it literally the money in, I was a tiny part of this case, but the money in my case, they said you had funds to break out. So whether it did help me out or not.
Got street cred.
Yeah, maybe. But it was not earned street cred. It was just a thing whacked on your door. But it was just, I think that thinking and the bright side of it, that helped me out.
And sometimes when you're mal-mannered and you're playing it down, or if you're mal-mannered, they think there's something really big, but you're playing it down.
Well, I was just honest. I just said,
but they probably thought,
I just dropped a bag. Maybe.
Really big.
I just would say I dropped a bag of money off in a big drugs case.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, fuck off. You've got AK on your door.
I can
and
see
you think,
that.
yeah, you can, thinking that, yeah. But I tend to have always got on with older prisoners who are in for like serious armed robbers, and I just always got on with them. And it's not so much me wanting to. I think birds of a feather do flock together in prison, Sean. Do you not think? You know, you tend to get with people that are like you, or
like from the same area.
Yeah, same area or same sort of background. Don't know. I just think.
So, who did you relate to initially when you arrived at Belmarsh? Who did you click up with?
No one. So I was processed on my own and put into. And then, do you know when you're queuing up for the phone? And then you get chatting in the queue. And then the two brothers, one bloke said, oh, all right, mate, where are you from? And I said, I'm from Essex. He went, I know Essex. And he was from Canning Town, got chatting. Because I think people probably would want to talk to you because they want to know why you're an ACAN. You look like a fucking pussycat. And so I got chatting, and it was the two brothers. And then I went in for a cup of tea, and I explained to them, you know, my case. And I was asking them advice, really, because I was getting paperwork, didn't know this, and they was helping me. And one of them was really articulate. He brought out books and things like that, and he was and they really did help me out. And sadly, like his brother got off and he didn't, and his case was so fucked up. It was like these blokes. This guy was a criminal years ago, and it just seemed like they had it in for him, the police, and they just anyway. It's so sad. He got IPP and everything, and he's like he was like 50 odd when I met him. But they really helped me out. Yeah.
What was your routine at Belmarsh?
It was literally breakfast, and I got a cleaning job, which that was good because you're out your cell all day. Do a bit of cleaning. But the prison officers in Belmarsh don't want to be your mates. I'm not saying any of them want to be your mates, but I'd done quite a long stint in Loudon Grange, and they had their first names on there, and they had... they were just like a bit nice, not nicer, but they you know, because you're living together. I think I can understand Belmarsh. It was a high, tense, like pressure place, and they don't want to be your mate. They just want to get on with their job. And I remember a woman prison officer. I've shouted over to my mate, "Can you pass?" I suppose I should have been me being a bit gobby. I've shouted over to my mate, "Can you send the paper over?" "Hey mate, can you send the paper over after?" Because you'd share it. And she went, shouting across there, you sound like a queer. And I was like, fucking all right. And I've gone off, and the newspaper, I got her back. So I'm queuing up for the phone, and the two prison officers are sitting there, because they used to sit on like a desk at the end of the wing. And she's gone, "Here, Stedman, can I have that newspaper?" I said, "It's the Mirror, miss, don't crack it." And the other prison officers have laughed. And as I said it like jokingly, but I thought, shit, I shouldn't have had a joke with the prison crew. She's got, "I'm going to fucking nick you." And the two other prison officers are pissing themselves. She said, "Don't worry, Stedman, we'll unnick you." And they were going on about it for days, and they was winding her up. But she was, do you know, one of these prison, do you know, like some women screws, you think, oh, don't mind her wrapping me up. She's the one you don't want wrapping you up. She'd pop your head off. But yeah, and I thought, shit, what have I done here? I could have had a laugh with another screw about that.
Were the cell searches more invasive?
Cat A, you get cell search once a week, and you get DST, which is security come in, and they're the ones send the dogs let in, and dogs jump up on you, and the dog jumps on your bed and you're fast asleep. So I think after Belmarsh, that's when the sleeping slowed down. I was always up before the screws opened my door. I don't know why. I just felt like I had to be. Always sitting at my thing. I remember one It was winter and it was really dark, and the screw opened my door, and he said, Stedman, you're the only one who's out of bed, because it was really foggy, and I just thought, I want to be dressed, tidy, sitting in my chair for when they open the door. I don't know why, still to this day, but I just, going back to my routine, it was literally get up, breakfast, do a bit of cleaning and get banged up, and then use the phone when you're doing the cleaning, which they let you do.
Did you work out?
No, I didn't throughout my whole remand, because coming off of a visit, one of my co-defendants who got not guilty.
Hope you're enjoying this podcast. There's a word from our sponsor, Rocket Money. The other day, I had to cancel 3 Amazon Prime memberships. I had a personal on the UK Amazon, US Amazon, company account, US Amazon, UK Amazon. Do you understand how hard it is to cancel these bloody things? That's why Rocket Money makes these things so much easier, formerly known as Truebill. The app shows all your subscriptions in one place and cancels what you don't want for you. Rocket Money can even find subscriptions you didn't know you were paying for. Just like with me, with my 4 Amazon Prime memberships, you may find out you've been at least double charged for a subscription. To cancel a subscription, all you've got to do is press cancel, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. Get rid of useless subscriptions with Rocket Money now. Go to rocketmoney.com/Sean, SHAUN. Seriously, it could save you hundreds per year. That's rocketmoney.com/Sean, SHAUN. Thank you for supporting our sponsor, Rocket Money. Links in the description box. Cheers.
I said, oh, like, what you doing, blah, blah. I got Pelly with him and all that, and we didn't know each other. Nobody knew each other in that whole case. Nobody knew each other. It was so weird. And I said, oh, blah, blah, blah. He went, I'm fucking going to tell him. I went, what? He went, I'm going to tell him. This bloke got me involved. Blah. And I was like, what? I said, you've read the paperwork. You know what we're involved in, don't you? And he was probably a bit like me. I think he drove a car on the day the drugs were getting picked up, but it wasn't a massive part of it. I was like, are you fucking mad? And straight away, I'm one of them, like, you can stab me, but don't stab my family. Like, I'd think, you're not worried about your family? And he's like, no, bollocks, I'm not fucking spending years in prison for these cunts. And I was like, you're fucking mad. They'll do something to you. Well, yeah, I shouldn't have said that, because he went back to the prison and said, Frank's just threatened me in visits.
Oh, what a POS.
And I said, are you fucking kidding me? And the people, the screws on the wing said, let me tell you, he would not threaten him. But because it was to security don't know me, that was it. So I wasn't allowed to go library. So I was on the wing with the cleaning job, and I was allowed to go visits. And I remember, because he was on the wing, I remember saying, oh, come on, mate. Fucking hell. He's gone, no. And later I realised he used it in his case, that's why. He said he was being threatened in prison and all that in his case, and he got off.
He got off?
Yeah, he got off, yeah. 2 of them got off to go pick the drugs up. He got off. I don't know, but the guy who picked the drugs up, he got off saying he got put under duress, which is, he said I got put under duress by a young athletic lad with massy blonde hair. And there's a Colombian bloke, a big massive bloke, and there's me, little skinny kid with massy blonde hair, and I'm thinking, fucking hell, mate. But yeah, so...
I'm curious about, you're asleep, first time dog jumps on your bum.
Shit myself.
What kind of a dog was it?
The sniffer dog. So it's a spaniel, which we've got a spaniel now, sleeps with us. So I love dogs, but it come in and it just shocks you out of your sleep. Spaniel jumps on you and you think, fuck. And then you open your eyes and there's geezers dressed in black, and they thought they was SASM, didn't they? Really wanted to be.
Goon Squad, we call them.
Yeah. So they've... And I remember that happening and remember dreaming about it, and I just think, I'm not getting caught out by that again. Because they'd let the dog in Bosch and the dog would be on you and it scared the shit out of you, like originally. But then it's amazing what your body gets used to. There's a point in my prison sentence that I don't know whether you'd agree about this, in Loudon Grange, where I spent a long time, I could tell what night screw was on because of the way his footsteps were. I'd go, oh, Jimmy's on tonight, because his footsteps were different and the key would go. And that's weird.
You become attuned to everything.
Yeah, and I think it's like blind people, you know, that something else comes. So yeah, but you get used to them things, don't you? Which you shouldn't really, but...
Was your case resolved while you were at Belmarsh?
No, I got moved from Belmarsh when because our case was in Leicester. And my brief seems to think they done it out of Leicester, so it wasn't in the area. Because if a crime happens in your area, a friend of a friend can drive past, say, I've just seen a load of police in blah, blah, blah. So this is what my brief says. So they'd done it in Leicester. So we got moved from Belmarsh to Woodhill, but we got put in the unit then. So it's a prison within a prison. So me and my co-Ds were in 6B, and there was, do you remember the Hells Angels Outlaws shot each other on the motorway driving? There were two of them was in there. Two guys were in there who was on remand for like a serious robbery where someone got shot and killed. And there was another guy who was, I think his name was Leon. Don't know, but I got on with him. He was from our area, funny enough, down London, and he was just like against authority. He was like, I can't imagine. I think his crime was pretty bad, but not to put him in there. But he was a serious like misbehaviour. And then the guy come in. Mad. There was a guy in another bit of the unit. 'Cause there was three of them. And do you remember the guy who chopped a body up, said he'd done it for like the crime family? Like it was a right weird story. He was doing a cookery course in the kitchen. And you think, really? And because of so yeah, we was on remand. So when you're on remand, they don't really let you do long courses and things like that because they don't know what's going to happen. So I just tried to do a bit of education, and but I was allowed to go gym in Woodhill. But when you go to the gym, this was another thing where I think the ACAT status bollocks. So I've gone in and you have to give your card to the prison officer. So I've given my card I said, here, Gov, I've got to give you this. He's like, what? I said, I've got to give you my card. Why? And he's grabbed it and gone, oh, fuck. So when you're in the unit in Woodhill, you get moved with dogs to a gate, and then the bloke with the dog leaves you at the gate, and then you go into the main prison. And I was there when they brought that, was it Baby P? Real bad case years and years ago. The young kid got killed by the two. They brought him in a car and drove him through the prison to the first night centre. And that was a big deal in our prison. We was like, what the fuck? They shut the whole prison down.
Were people trying to get him?
Yeah, he was the worst kid.
Bulger.
Yeah, that's it. One of them two come in there, and he was put in a cell in the first night centre, and they drove him in. Like, I remember seeing it out the window. There were cars come flying in. But yeah, so it's put in a prison within a prison, and that's when you're with. There was like a bit of a mad geezer in there, and he said, I've been on remand 4.5 years, and all it was for a bit of fireworks. And I'm like, what? And then I've asked a bloke who's been in there for a while, and he's like, he was caught with fucking bombs. And there was another bloke in there who was a policeman, and he was in prison, and he got caught up in this case. It's like 1,500 kilos. A boat sunk off of England, and every time gear washes up, he got recharged. But he was a policeman and another undercover policeman, and he became a criminal. Yeah. Pretty much. And I think that happens quite a lot, doesn't it? Really?
It does, yeah.
I think it's the money.
We had Andrew Pritchard on. He had a whole customs team working for him.
Yeah, mental, isn't it? What people do for money.
Well, there's so much money in drugs, it corrupts members of every profession. Yeah,
and I think every kind of people as well. People that maybe you'd never believe it or wouldn't do it. I probably misbehaved, and I was maybe a little bit too naughty at school, but playing the class clown. But I wasn't one of them kids you think, oh, he's going to do something really bad.
So at this new prison then, with these high-profile guys, is your routine the same?
No, because I'd get up in the morning, I'd run, because there was a little bit of an exercise thing in that. I never went out to exercise in that, because there was cages as big as this room, and it was 4 cages, and I thought, I'm not walking around in that fucking cage. And there was a roof on it, and it was dark, and it was a little bit like there was a little bit of a tacit understand, a little bit of an unwritten rule, like don't go and exercise, don't be a mug, and go and walk around that little bit. Do you know where you think, I quickly got that. So I would go for a run in the mornings before breakfast, and then have breakfast, and then we was allowed out all day. It's weird that in the more secure things, you're allowed out more. So we're allowed out all day, mingling, playing pool, and then I'd go gym, and then come back. I could play football in there, but I could only play football inside. I wasn't allowed to play football. Cat A's weren't allowed to play football outside. But I was saying Cat A, they reckon when you're on remand, you're like potentially you're pot A. I was Cat A'd, but you're only pot A. People would say you're only pot A, you're not Cat A. When you get 2 of my codees got convicted and they was KA after being convicted. But it's still, my visitors, that was a pain in the arse in Belmarsh. My visitors, so you write to the governor sends off to the governor sends off to the government, and then they send off to your local police, and then the local police go around and have a visit and interview with your visitor, and then they send it all back through. So my kids, luckily, my dad got cleared quite quickly, and then my mum and my sister got cleared, and I haven't seen them since before my brother's death. So this was Christmas visit. My mum and my sister's coming up a week before Christmas. They've allowed me to book the visit. I've booked the visit, everything's okay, and they've got to the gate, and I'm sitting in the visiting hall now, and they've said that something's wrong with the visits, they can't come in. And I was like, you're kidding me? And then my mate sitting next to me, he was on my wing, he's gone, is your mum and sister look similar, and they've got fair hair, and I said, yeah. He said, they're out there crying, because his missus told him. I said, why? I said, they're not letting them in. And I wasn't a pain in the arse prisoner, but I put my hand up in Belmarsh, can't even get it. So I put my hand up and they've come over. I said, can you find out if my visitors are turning up? I said, well, no, the gates are shut. I said, yeah, but can you find out if they're not turning up? And I'm starting to get the and then I got up then and walked to the main hub thing, and they've gone to not wrap me up, they've come over to me. I said, take me back to my fucking cell. I said, I'm not being an arsehole. I said, but I haven't seen my family. I quickly told them, my brother died months ago. I've not seen my family, and you've just stopped him a visit, where it's been cleared. You actually cleared the visit. And they said it was something wrong with the paperwork. I don't think the prison are fucking with you, but so yeah, going back to Belmarsh, but yeah, and then Woodhill was it was a cleaner prison, because you got Wormwood Scrub's really old, really dirty, and then you've got Belmarsh was just high pressure, and then Woodhill was it just seemed a bit. We went to the gym once, and the Leicester rugby team come in, and there was a massive geezer in the gym, and he was fucking massive out, and he was like, I think he thought he was a bit hard. And one of the Leicester, I think he plays for England now, one of the Leicester rugby players, they're doing drills, and he's fucking run at this Leicester rugby player with the thing, and only for training, and the Leicester rugby player shrugged him off like a little baby. It's obviously a technique to it, but he's fucking shrugged him. This geezer's gone flying. You think, his ego, but he's one of them blokes, everyone's like, don't want to laugh out loud because he might fucking beat you up. But yeah, I started playing football in there, and that was quite good. I started getting a bit more of a physical routine. But in Belmarsh and Wormwood Scrubs, it was pretty much just dealing with every day.
Is it this one you got sentenced?
We got sentenced in Wormwood Scrubs. That's when I pleaded guilty, so I didn't go to court, but they were going backwards and forwards to court. And what they do, it's propaganda in it. They've been doing it hundreds of years. They cut you, so there's fucking people at court with guns and God knows what else. And then 3 of us got convicted. I pleaded guilty, 2 got convicted, and we got taken to court in all the gear. That was when you get the proper strip searches when you're carried. You get strip searching to cell and all that in Belmarsh. But yeah, and then we come back on the tannoy, and I remember the lad tannoy coming back from court, and this was sentencing actually. They said, how long did they get? That's all they said over the tannoy. How long did they get? And I was sitting there thinking, fucking hell. But yeah, my codees, they got guilty, 2 of them. And
Did
then
those sentences come in before yours?
No, we all got sentenced at the same time.
But were you watching the 28 years come in, 28 years?
Yeah, sorry,
Did you think you were going to get...
So my brief said to me, you're going to get about 15, 16. And so I'm getting that in my head thinking, right, fucking hell, that's a long time. I'm working out how old my kids are going to be. But by then, I've been in prison months, and I quickly accepted I was going to be in prison a long time. When I was in Wormwood Scrubs, we was all in this new prisoner meeting, and they said, how long are you looking at? And in Wormwood Scrubs, it's a little... a local, so you get a couple of years, and say, how long are you looking? I said, I'm hoping for a 10, but I'm probably going to get more. And everyone's like, really? So I don't know, but I was just hoping for that amount. And then my brief said to me, you're going to get around a 15, and I was thinking, right, fuck. And I remember my codee's family wasn't there in sentencing. They was probably there for the verdict, but they didn't want to go for sentencing. It's like a kick in the teeth, innit? So I remember my family were there, and I remember me mum wouldn't even look at me, crying her eyes out. And then they've gone for 28 years, and I remember looking at the glass, and I'm breathing on the glass. And I remember going dizzy a little bit. I remember looking, thinking, fuck. And you know, you get a little bit like,
Your
I'm
legs are
thinking,
starting to go.
I'm getting 18 here. That's what I'm thinking. And you know, you're quickly thinking, blah, blah, blah. Oh, Jesus Christ. And the woman's next to me. And then when my mitigation happened, and they spoke about my brother and me not being allowed to go to his funeral, and then my family not coming up on a visit, and I not asking for sympathy, because this is what happens if you fucking around with crime. You know, you don't affect you, it affects your family. And we paid the ultimate price of me not going to my brother's funeral. And so when they done that, he scrubbed something out, and then he writ something down. And even the woman that I was handcuffed to on the way here, she went, I reckon he scrubbed out maybe 11 and give you 9, or 10 and give you 9. So yeah, I've got 9 years for, which is, in the grand scale of things, I got lucky. I was in the little room after, thinking, yes, thank God. But then that causes arguments. My codees, I don't know, how the fuck have you got 9 years? And I'm like, I dropped a bag of money off. You've been put as main conspirator on a 300 kilo, and I've dropped, and we like rad about it. But where you don't know each other, that is not to commit crime, but committing crime, and then there's committing crime with people you don't know. Like, it was so, everyone holds their cards close to their chest, everyone's fucking paranoid, and you're like, you can't ask each other, what are you going to say, because you just don't know. It's so weird. And where I was new to it, I didn't want to say too much to anybody, because I just thought, I'm going to accidentally drop myself in the shit. And I said that to my brief, and he said, just plead guilty straight away, and you ain't got to say nothing. And I thought, brilliant. You know, no comment all the way in it, because my brief said you convict yourself in the interview, 99% of people, and then they pleaded non-guilty. And that was a massive weight on my shoulders, because me standing in the dock with someone cross-examining me and all that, I would have been like, what the fuck? I wouldn't know what to say. And your family watching you and all that. It's just, you don't want to be your family remembering shit like that. So I just, yeah. And then, yeah, we got sentenced then. And then I sort of thought, right, that's it. I've been in nearly a year. I've got a few years left. I'm in Woodhill. So they moved me from 6B onto a normal wing of Woodhill. I think maybe because I pleaded guilty, they didn't want me talking to my codees, or it was something to do with this, me threatening to kill that codee again. They told me they've moved me because of me threatening my codee earlier on in this. They've read that and they moved me on to like main society, but in a cell with Cat A on your door again. But in Woodhill, it's quite local. People are knocking on your door. Why are you Cat A, mate? I'm like, fucking hell, I don't know. But yeah, but Woodhill was all right. Started getting a bit more of a routine in physical training and that.
Was it Belmarsh where you met one of the Essex boys?
One of the Essex boys? No. In Loudon Grange, is one of the Tates, one of his brothers was in there, and he was a really nice, quiet bloke. Russell, his name was. Really nice, quiet bloke, and I got on just chatting with him. Not like become friends, but just chatting. And you think to yourself, what you see on TV and what you see, he was just a nice, normal bloke.
Did you ask him what he thought had happened?
No, wouldn't ask that. Didn't know him that well. I wouldn't have asked him that if I knew him, to be honest. I'm very much speak when spoken to. I remember we in Loudon Grange was at the table, and a young lad said something a bit stupid, and I was like, don't speak at the table, mate. I remember saying it to him, don't speak.
So easy to just make a mistake, isn't it?
We're sitting there, and there's an old bloke from Everton, and his codees were in Panama, and the drugs that were shipped in a container, they needed the same container to bring the money back. And then there's another like London bloke who got arrested, and they found millions of pounds. And I'm like, don't talk shit at the table. Like, but these were like my little family then, because we was in Loudon Grange. I was in there for a long time. I'm good mate Tom and Joe and Cav. This is where I probably had, I wouldn't say the funniest time, but I was really settled, and I started having a laugh and started being a bit more like myself, instead of thinking, shit, I can relax now, know when I'm getting out.
Once you know when you're getting out, it's just...
Yeah, even if it's a bit of paper and it's fucking, what is it, 5,000, blood, you just think, I'm getting out. It's
your
nothing,
whole psychology changes,
yeah,
doesn't
there's
it?
nothing to stop you. And maybe the days with my brother and in segregation, that was shit. But I remember thinking, I'm never going to be as low as this. So there's only way now is up, sort of thing. But this is the price you pay in it.
Which part of it did you do with Charles Bronson?
Oh, he was. I wasn't. He was. I was in 6B in Wormwood Scrubs, and not Wormwood Scrubs in Wood Hill, and he was in another. He was in the unit within a unit, but next to us. I don't know why they moved him there. I think it was maybe more secure.
When did you first become aware he was there?
Well, I didn't know, and then they said Screws are panicking, shitting himself, and I'm like, what's going on here? I've not really seen Screws panic. Where's his t-shirt? Where's his fucking t-shirt? And the bloke who's doing the laundry, who's a prisoner. Oh, 1 minute, I'll go and check. And he's come out with this big Run DMC t-shirt. I still remember it. Like, how mad's that? And I'm like, what's the matter? What's the matter? And he's gone, fucking Bronson's next door. Straight away, and I'm thinking, I've been in prison long enough now. And I'm like, what? Charles Bronson? He said, yeah, he's next door. He's fucking misplaced a t-shirt and he reckons it's here and someone's nicked his t-shirt. So they're shitting themselves and they've given the t-shirt, got it going through, and then the story comes out as well. There's a young governor taken over recently, I think, I'm not sure. So he's gone in to see Bronson, have a chat with him, or maybe stamp his authority, who knows. And the young governor had glasses, tall, chest out governor, like, you know, walked past, you know, one of them sort of governors. And he's gone to Bronson's cell to have a chat with him, and Bronson's smacked him, punched him in the eye, and said, fuck off, Harry Potter. And it went round the prison at wildfire. Whether it was a bit of a fabrication, I don't know. But the next day, the governor's standing outside like they do, and he's got a fucking massive black eye. And all the Screws said, yeah, Bronson smacked him one. So yeah, he was, I think he was in like 10-man unlock or something ridiculous.
Did you get to see him?
No. I don't even think the Screws in the prison saw him, did they? He's in the deep belly of prison there, isn't he? But no, I would never got to see him. I think he had visits there. I'd never saw him go into a visit.
So there was a situation where the sex offenders were housed.
That was
Lincolnshire.
Oh yeah, that was so. Belmarsh was the worst pressure-wise, but the Stories was definitely the open prison. So from Loudon Grange, after being in Loudon Grange for all them years, I got sent to. So they offered me. They said, "Listen, you can go to North Sea Camp, and you can go to this prison." And I still then didn't know what prison was what. Another DCAT. But if you go to North Sea Camp, you'll be out for your first home leave just before Christmas, and it was 3 days. So I'm thinking, I don't give a fuck if it's like, if I'm going to go there and be chained up for 6 months, I want to be out to see my kids before Christmas. And so I said, yeah, I'll go there. So I've gone back to the wing, lads, I'm going North Sea Camp, and a couple of the blokes who know it, they're like, mate, that is a bad place. And I'm like, what? Got there, and there's a mad story of Loudon Grange. My mate got in a fight just the day I got my DCAT. Do you know? And you think, shit, I've got to help you here. Not help him. I didn't have to help him.
What was the fight over?
Russian blokes come in the servery. We worked in the servery, and this was when I was with like the lot I got on the most with, and he's put his hand in to grab a burger. And my mate, he was a good boxer and all that, and he's gone, here, mate, don't put your hands in, we give it to you, put your plate up there. And this Russian said, like, come to my cell afterwards, and you don't say, if he said it to me, I'd be like, I don't want to come to your cell, just don't take my mate's gone. And I thought, where's he gone? He's come back in trainers. And I thought, he's come back, he had his flip-flops on. I thought, he's come back in trainers. Bloke's come back in to get his food because it ran out, and we'd all like nick an extra chicken breast, wouldn't you, if you worked on servery? So there'd be a couple short, and the newcomers would have to just wait another 10 minutes before they get more. And he'd come back in, and mate shut the door, and he's just fucking weighed him in. There was blood everywhere. And I'm picking this geezer up, wiping his head, wiping blood off the wall, and they go, fucking leave him. I'm like, I've just got my DCAT. So I've got him in his cell, and we shut the door, and the Screws, if the door's shut in Loudon Grange, Screws just like lock your door. They don't look, they have a look and lock your door. And my mate's like, that's all happened. And then the next couple of days he's been moved off. They've opened the door the next day, and he's fucking black and blue.
The Russian?
Like, yeah, and a couple of us are like on guard every day, thinking if he kicks off on the wing. And when on the induction wing where I stayed, we was upstairs, and the new people come downstairs. And a couple of days later, out in the big cross thing in the middle where everyone walks, and the governor stands in the middle, he's come walking over, and he's walking over towards our wing, and I'm thinking, why is he coming to our wing? Because our wing, there's nothing at our wing. Education's that way, the gym's that way. So I've gone round on the grass, and they get off the grass, and I've gone round to get round the side of him. My mate's standing in front of him. Lo and behold, he got lost. He forgot where he was going. But I'm thinking, shit, just got my decat. Yeah, and he's going to do my mate. So I'm thinking, if I hit him from the side, I'm not a fighter, but like when you're in there, they become like brothers, really, don't you? And you think, I'm gonna stick up for my brothers no matter what. Sounds really, really stupid. They're not my brothers in there, but you're going to stick up for. But you're living with these people every day for years. And thank God nothing happened. And I said to my mate afterwards, fucking hell, got my DK yesterday, and I was going to have a fight in front of the governor. And realistically, for not losing face or helping your mate, I wouldn't have seen my kids. It's just shit. But the things you're forced into because of the shit you do. But it's, yeah. And that was, but going back to North Sea Camp, man, I turned up there and it was a farm. And I was brought up in Epping, which is like down the end of our road, there was just farms for as long as you can see, and we had Epping Forest, and I was quite outdoorsy kids, and I've turned up this farm, and I'm like, oh my God, this is a dream. Fresh air, and it's next to the North Sea, and it's hilarious. Some geezer broke out once, went the wrong way of a night, and ended up helicopter getting him out of the North Sea. What a fucking idiot. Gone out the wrong way and got caught in the mud or something, and the fucking helicopter had to come pick him out, and he went straight back to closed conditions. But it was brilliant, where it was. And then I've gone in there, and it's the only place where you saying you bully any prisoners, sex offenders, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, shit, I've never signed one of these before. You go in and you start hearing stories, and it's the ones who committed crimes 30 years ago, like the worst of the worst. There was a bloke in there. He used to come gym, and he was quite fit looking, not a bad looking bloke, sort of like 40s, fit, like clean looking bloke, and he used to come gym, and I was, all right mate, and things like that. And I was a gym orderly in there for the majority of it. I started working out and taking dogs for a walk, but every time you come in, you get searched. And if you're seen outside talking to someone else, you get in trouble. And I just thought, you know what, as much as I like going out, I just want to get my sentence done. So I asked to go back in and not go out every day and go and work in the gym. And like that gym changed my life, like going in there. I was training every day. I got super fit, doing circuits, and you forget about everything. And I got on really well with the gym officer, which I still talk to now. And so yeah, like in there, and the worst of the worst. And this guy, and I used to go home, so I was going like home leaves, and I say to my kids' mum, like about keeping the kids, you say that place fucked you up. And I'm like, no, this bloke sitting opposite me who used to come to the gym, and then I found out, took a kid off a bus, and he wrapped her up in cling film, kept her in the loft for days. And this bloke, Sean, if you walk down the street now, just a normal looking bloke.
Was she dead, the kid?
Yeah, after whatever he'd done to her. And there was another bloke, a stepdad, locked his kids in a cupboard. And I'm not a bully, but I was behind, like, when we found out about this guy wrapping the kid up in, I just ignored him and said, like, don't fucking talk to me. Because I was a gym orderly. It was hard to not talk to people. Like, I used to one bloke, he used to make me tuna wraps, worked in the kitchen. I'd sneak him in the back door. And the gym screw knew I was doing it. I asked him, and I was like, sneak us in. And I'd sneak him in the back door, because it was all like farmland. And he'd say thanks. And we used to joke around saying he was grooming me. He used to be squat 300 key. He got kicked out of the decap for raping his cellmate. And I was like, oh my God. And you think, fuck, this geezer, if he got hold of me, I'd have no chance. But so we used to joke about me in a prison school. So he was definitely grooming you. He's going to invite you around for a cup of tea one day. Imagine. Yeah. I'm a fast runner, but not when the door's shut. Oh. And so, yeah, and in that place, but it was just, you'd hear that a prisoner's raped another prisoner. I never heard that until I got to this decap. And it was on a farm. There's stories about geezers being caught shaking the animals. And I know. And there's a guy who's come on your thing. He said they found condoms down there. Do you know Kieran?
Yeah. Did you bump into Kieran in the system?
No. Oh, yeah, I did in Loudon Grange.
Just a shout out to Kieran, because Kieran...
Yeah, he's a cool bloke, he is, yeah.
We've had Kieran on twice. UK Crip in Manchester Gangland.
Yeah.
Nice and yeah, check out his podcast, and shout out to Kieran. Thank you for organising this with me.
Yeah, he's got chatting to him through the prison officer, actually, from the open. He was in the open prison, and we was chatting away, and I thought, I know you. He's like, I know you, your name. And we got chatting. We was in Loudon Grange the same time. Right. And I used to play football for another wing on Loudon Grange, and I think it was So that's how I sort of travelled a little bit, like in Loudon Grange, got seen playing football for another wing and playing football for my wing. Yeah, and
So you just had to tolerate the beasts.
yeah, that was really bad. Like even like playing football in their teams used to come from outside. And where I played football, there was a geezer there, really good footballer, really good. And I used to say, have you not met? Mate, I've met 3 people in prison. They should be professional footballers. They should be.
There's so much wasted talent in prison.
Yeah, in every aspect, smart people, but I'm like, Jesus Christ, and then I got really pally with him, really pally, and then it's come out probably a year later, a couple of years later, or a year later, it didn't come out itself for months. He's climbed a drain pipe, got in a girl's window and raped her. That's why I was in prison. And I was good mates with him. And then I waited. I thought, I'm not going to his cell. And then he come down and I said, mate, when he come into the gym, I was wasn't the head gym orderly, but I've been there the longest. So I got him in the Screw's office, and the Screw was in there, and I shut the door and said, what the fuck? Why the fuck didn't you tell me? I've gone like, mate, hello, goodbye, but that's all you can get now. Fucking hell, mate. I said, like, we've been friends for ages, like close mates. And that's why I ended up being training with a big Welsh bloke, was hilarious, and the prison officer, because I just, I made so many friends in there, and then it comes out, you get these lads, I rob drug dealers, and I think, no, you don't. Then you find out he's right, and that was and this is what made me a little bit twisted in, like, these people look like normal people. And they were the worst of the worst in there, the ones that committed horrific crimes like 30 years ago.
If you're accidentally a friend with one of them, that could ruin your reputation, couldn't it?
Well, yeah, I suppose if you're walking around with someone, no, I tell you what, if you're walking around with someone after it comes out, that's what could sort of ruin your reputation. But I used to go home on home leaves and say to my mates, oh, mate, this bloke, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and I was in the queue one day getting their food, and the bloke's in front of me, older bloke, and he locked a kid in a cupboard, and the kid was eating the wallpaper. They found wallpaper in his belly. And I was like, I'm starving. I could die for a bit of wallpaper, I could. And he's looked at me, and I was like, yeah, I know you are. And I wasn't an arsehole, but I've been in prison years then, and I used to think, no, you don't. I had kids, and there's a couple of times where you think, no, you're a fucking arsehole. But it sounds like I was bullying that bloke. But I was just like, yeah, and you'd hear these people, like, I used to go education, and a lot of, you'd hear them, like, they'd sort of get together and you'd hear them talking sometimes. And I'd walk over there and they'd stop talking. And I think, yeah, stop talking about what you've done. It's fucking disgusting, some of them. There was one guy I got really pally with. His nephew was my mate outside. And his nephew was like, decent bloke outside. And I mentioned where I'm from. Oh, do you know bloke? I said, yeah. But I don't know whether now, me saying, he said a name and I said, oh, what? Blah, blah, blah. And he was like, he looks like that. And he went, yeah. So thinking back now, did he, do you know like a medium would do? Did he go off of, on a town visit, he beat a girl up, tied her up and raped her mate in front of her on a town visit. And he worked on, so from the farm, they'd cut up the animals, the farmers, and there'd be a farm shop and the prison officers and that. And then in the end of my prison sentence, I was in a house at the end of, like, out of the prison, and I could cook for myself, and then we could shop at that shop. But he was in that shop at the gate selling to visitors and all that. And I'm like, what the fuck? But then a prison officer got arrested years later from that place for grooming his fucking niece. She recorded him saying, sorry, Scottish bloke raped her and all that. Do you know, you think, fuck, that place must have... It was way before he became a prison officer, and you think, this... And I used to be like a bit twisted, say, like, about the kids, don't let them walk to school and all that. I said, because they're out there, and they look normal.
When you say they went quiet when you approached them then, does that mean they were like bragging about what they'd done?
I don't know whether they're bragging, but I don't know, but these people look a bit shifty, they act shifty, the real bad ones. And when they're laughing and joking amongst each other, all you can think of is, what are you talking about? And then when you go over there and stop talking, you think, And it was just, I sacrificed, like, living with them people because I was going home every month. I was up in a beautiful countryside of Lincolnshire, and it was flat, and I was going for runs. We were going up for runs all around the farm and all that with the prison officer, and he was clearing it. We was going for runs, and I got really pally with a friend from Lincoln, who's sadly passed away now. we were like best mates, and we was banged up together for years, and he was the one, like, we met up afterwards and all that, and he was so funny. Some of the things, we was at the end of an alley, and it had glass windows, these doors, and they were curtained from the outside, and it was Sunday. There was a screw on a Sunday. We'd know he's on because he'd bang the doors, not let you lie in. So we thought, it'd be funny. We both stripped naked doing star jumps, and he's opened the thing and gone, for fuck's sake, and shut the thing. And just like a bloke, we used to play chess every night, and it was just like I was saying to you earlier, them 2 minutes of laughter and the rest of the day shit. But yeah, we just got on really well, and that really helps in a place like that. But, you know, I'm not want everyone to feel sorry for you. It's just...
Did you have a plan for your release?
Did I have a plan? No, not really. I wanted to get out and then sort of make amends. My family really supported me, but I just wanted to get out, see my kids. Like my first time home leave, I didn't tell my kids, and I knocked on the door, and they come to the door, and they say, Daddy, and they come up to visits. But this is going to sound really stupid. I didn't want them coming up to visits in that prison because I was worried. Do you know, if one of them falls in love with your kid, this sounds really bad, one of them sees your kid and thinks, I'm going to befriend him. Do you know what I mean? That's probably my problem. Not,
you got to protect people.
So I didn't have the kids up in that prison, but you do like a couple of months. Is it 3 months lie down? So you stay there for 3 months, and then you start going home.
Looking at a kid like that, you just want to kill him on the spot, wouldn't you?
No, yeah. This is what, do you know what? In Loudon Grange, there was a massive thing because they said everybody can have a computer in their cell, because Loudon Grange was a private jail, so it was funded by private and prisoners spending money. And they said, you can have a playground outside the visits. So in visits, you go out and there's a playground, and you can actually play with your kids. And you book it, and it gets okayed, and then you go out and play with your kids, which you haven't been able to do for years. And people are going, fuck off, because there is yards there. The nonsense, they're going to look at your fucking... And my argument was, they're going to look at them in visits. So who cares? You might as well go out to the playground and play with your kids. Forget about what's around you. You play with your kids, but that's the problem. Thing with in prison, everyone's so worried about what everyone else is doing. And I think I was just... Everything's magnified, isn't it? Jesus Christ. You don't say hello to someone in the morning. They come up to you and put it on you in the afternoon, don't they? What's the matter? Nothing. Why did you say hello to me? I wasn't even looking at you. And, you know, it's like that is... I had a really good mate in there, and really good mate. And there'd be times you think, fuck, what the fuck? And then the next day you just get on as normal. But yeah, it's... But that open prison was really, like, was good for me, because I was going out, but then it's weird how maybe institutionalised you are, because I didn't want to go out anymore and walk dogs, which I love dogs, and I loved that job, but I just thought you're going out and then you're waiting for the bus, and then someone gets on the bus, and then something happens, or someone gives you something to eat, and you get out the bus and you're eating a Snickers, and they go, what are you fucking doing? You're trying to smuggle that in, and you're getting searched most of the time. So you just think, you know what, it's not worth it. So I went in and I worked in the gym for months, done circuits and spin classes, and that was really good. It sort of set me in good stead for after prison. I'd done my personal training course in there with that, and not that I did any personal. I tried a bit of personal training when I got out, but it was forever standing at a park and someone's not turning up, and you think, oh Jesus, where are they? So yeah, but I just went back to, I got out, getting a release, and I had a bit of time off, like a time of just chilling out and seeing family. And my mum said I used to go around her house and sit in her living room and watch films, and then go back to where I was staying.
What year is that when you was out?
2013.
Okay.
She said he comes round, fucking sits in my living room, watch films, and then he goes back to where I was living at a friend's house. And she's like, what's wrong with him? People used to say, he must still think he's in prison. And that lasted for a few months. And then slowly, and then I got back into scaffolding, which I'd done before going into prison.
There was a situation where you intervened with some bullies?
Some bullies?
Teenage son targeted by bullies?
Oh, fuck, this was only a couple of years ago in Epping, High Street. My son's on the bus, and this is where, like, I wish these kids, you could talk to them, and you could just say, like, one of my friends, his job is making programs and charity talks, and I'm doing that with him, and we're doing talks, and I'm doing some talks at schools now as well. So my son's on the phone to me, and I've just finished work, and I said, Louis, what's the matter? He's gone, I've just had to get off the bus in the middle of nowhere, in between like Northfield and Epping. It's like a forest. I went, why? well, these lads, my son's he's a lot smarter than me, really, really switched on. He's like an adult as a kid. And they've asked to try my earphones on. When did you get them? So I got him a phone, because he moved in with me now. And got him a phone on Virgin. You get free earphones with it. So he's got these new earphones, them AirPod things. Let me try them on. Louis gone, no. They're just new. So Louis, he's carried on looking forward, but turned his music off, and he could hear him saying, when he gets off, we'll take this off him, take that off him. So he's rung me, and I've fucking picked him up. I've said to my boss at work, my boss has got kids, and he lives in Epping. I've gone, can I just go and get my son? He's down the road. And we was finishing work in the yard, and I've drove into Epping, and maybe thinking a bit too, like getting a bit carried away with adrenaline. Seen these kids in Epping, jumped out, they're like 18. They weren't at school, they was 18, 19. Jumped out and said, lads, like my son's shitting himself now, he don't want to get on the bus. He used to have to get a normal bus, like a public bus to school. He don't want to get on the bus now. If an adult jumped out and said that to me, I'd say, okay, you'd end up probably being mates with that kid years ago. Do you know what I mean? You'd end up keeping an eye out for him. This kid's lifted his top up and said, come round the fucking alley. If I wanted to rob your son, I'd rob your son. And I'm looking up at these 18-year-olds thinking, shit. And I thought straight away, I'm not being a statistic. Man protects his son, gets stabbed to death and all that, because that happens. And I'm thinking, fuck, what do I do? And then it's kicked off. And then like they swung at me and I've hit one of them, and then I'm thinking, I'm a 40-year-old man rolling around in my town, and you can imagine someone from your town, he's been in prison, that scumbag, and I've got the scaffold firm on my back, like on my jumper. Within 20 minutes, my missus has run me up, like my girlfriend, who I've met since getting out of prison, like met on my home leaves. I wouldn't have never met her if I didn't go to prison, so there is good things. So she's run me, said, someone's just sent me a video of you fighting in Epping High Street. And that's before I even told her what happened. And I'm like, what? A friend of a friend has said, oh, this has happened. Some bloke's fucking videoing it. Not help us while I'm rolling round. And I'm like, what? So we moved out then. We was living near Epping. I moved out to a little village now, like just outside of Harlow. And there's 2 houses. My son hates it. He's 18 now, and he goes out of his mates, and it's like we're in the middle of nowhere. But I was just like, man, I was brought up in Epping, and you get the occasional fight, but none of that. But he ran into W.H. Smith's, and I think he knew my weakness. I can't read, or he was going to come out of a book. But yeah, and I just, you just think like, what the fuck? And then things just don't go away, and I'm thinking, I'm going to be called that scumbag again now. And then prison 10 years down the line has affected me again now with trying to find work. So I had a heart attack last year due to an infection.
Heart attack?
Yeah.
What was the symptoms?
I had myocarditis, which is, I didn't know, I sound like a doctor. So last year I had myocarditis. So I was at work stretching, and got off, and I was like, Jesus. And all my throat closed up. I felt a bit sick, and I got white, I've got whites, the shakes. You know, you think, I'm going to shit myself. I'm going to be sick. And I've gone and sat down, and all like scaffolders like all laughing at me in the back of the van. I'm like, oh, lads, leave off. And I was the first to, my boss said, get up there. If there was a dangerous job, Frank would do it. He's a fucking idiot. Get up there and do that sort of thing. So I'd go and do it. And then I sat down in the van and said, lads, can you just do this for a minute? And my mate knew. I worked with a mate who was really close with. He's like, you all right? I said, yeah, I'm all right. Drove back home, felt all right. We went out for Sandspike that night. Next morning, woke up. And I woke up 2 minutes before the alarm. Never wake up on the alarm. And that's at like 5:30 in the morning. And it was going to rain all day anyway. Woke up at 4:30 in the morning thinking, my chest's hurting a bit. Rung up and it was pissing down all day, 100%. I said, I'm raining off, left a text or whatever.
What kind of pain was it?
Like 2 blokes, not one, 2 blokes sitting on your chest. And I remember sitting...
Like you're getting crushed?
Yeah, and I remember sitting in the living room thinking, do you know, like, you can't sit still. And I was sitting in the living room thinking, my chest is hurting. And I'm thinking, my chest is hurting. And I'm walking backwards and forwards in my living room, and I went up to my missus at 4:30 now. And this was only a year ago to the day nearly. And she said, I think I need to go. And I don't go hospital. I think I went hospital when I was born, and hospital when I done some mad skydiving thing, and that was it. But she sat up straight and went, what the fuck? I said, my chest... And I'd never told her what happened the day before. I said, my chest is really hurting. I sort of told her. She said, why didn't you fucking tell me? And she knows if I'm going to moan about something, it's got to be something bad, because I don't moan. And called an ambulance. They couldn't make it for some reason, but said, can your missus take you to the hospital quicker than what we can get there. I said, yeah, she'll take me. Got there, and then they'd done a few tests, sent me from A&E, sent me into like at Harlow Hospital, A&E and the doctors, I think, are next to each other anyway. Sent me into the doctors, said, we're going to take some blood. And I'm thinking, God, my chest is... Do you know if you've done like a chest session in the gym or been punched? It was just that feeling. It was sort of, I said to them, the pain's gone, but it's not. It's like a toothache in my chest. And they're like, right, we're going to take some bloods. And then they said, we're going to take some bloods. And then the first blood test come back and they said, right, you there's a thing called troponin in your blood and it's damaged to your heart. Troponin gets in your blood. That's how to know if you've had a heart attack. I don't know all this until they told me. And the person 0 to 2 troponin, that's a normal person. And they said, yours is at 36,000. I was like, what the fuck? And the doctor's gone, so we think you've got a thing called pericarditis, which is an infection in the sac that the heart sits in. We're going to take another blood test. If it's the same or less, we're going to say you've got pericarditis. But if it's more, you're going to have myocarditis. I said, what does that mean? So I'm going to have to ring my missus and we're probably going to keep you in. And then come back and it was 50,000 plus and the scale stops at 50,000. So I said, right, you're being kept in. And I literally had the results the other day from my last MRI scan. And so I've run my missus and they said I've got a thing called myocarditis. So it's an infection that's got to my heart. And myocarditis is inflammation of the heart. And they reckon... Me saying a heart attack, it wasn't like a conventional heart attack. They've said that. It wasn't a conventional heart attack, but they said it was a heart attack. Your heart's had the infection gone on for so long and it was so bad that it's had a reaction, like an attack. They said that heart attack sounds scary, but that's the only way we can call it. So yeah, I've had that and I was in hospital for a few days and then getting out, that was dodgy getting out. You think, am I going to wake up in the morning when you get out of hospital? And lo and behold, trying to get jobs because I'm looking into maybe not doing scaffolding now because they've advised me it's not a good idea. My missus and family we're going to be waiting for that phone call now for the rest of her life. You go back to scaffolding.
This thing in your heart then, is it gone?
So I got the results the other day. I've got scarring in heart and lungs, which I found out. But I'm allowed to start training again, so I've started training recently. But there's you've got a dodgy heart there, criminal record, no qualification. I wouldn't hire me. You wouldn't, would you? So I've looked into work and things like that. Maybe not going back to scaffolding, you could get a job in. But I just thought I'd have a little sideline look and things like that. But then I done antiques on the side with scaffolding a little while ago. I know it sounds mad, but I just was into furniture and that. And then there's a program called The Bidding Room. And this was only recently. They wanted me to go on there. And my mate's on there. My mate's a dealer on there. And they said, come on. And if it works out, we'll make you a dealer on there. And they said, your criminal record? No, not having you on there. So do you think, and this is what I can't stress to everyone, you do one stupid thing and I'm 10 years. So 2009, I committed a crime, got out in 2013 and we're now 2020 and it still bites you on the arse. I don't want people to feel sorry for me one bit because I know what I was doing, but fuck me, if someone listens to this and thinks, no way am I going to commit crime. Like these young kids who are rolling around freaking Epping High Street with like an idiot, like they were talking like they was out of a film. Come down the alley, bruv, I'll juke you. And I was thinking, what the no one spoke to me like this even in prison. And I'm thinking, fuck. And I think the most reoffending rate in this country is 15-year-olds. And then the second most is 10-year-olds, 10 to 15. Like, what the fuck? Anyway.
What do you say to
I'm going to go on ranting.
What do you say to young people who are thinking about carrying bags?
Well, the good thing about all of this is I will recognise someone gets involved in my son, I'll see it coming a mile off. But like I said earlier, if I stayed in scaffolding or done any job and kept that mortgage, I'd be sitting on all that money now. And I wouldn't have missed my brother's funeral. Nothing good comes from crime. And I'm not saying nothing good, like what you've been through, but you've made your career. But nothing good actually comes from it. Like your family, you feel like a scum. I remember the first time I picked up my daughter from school, I felt like an absolute scumbag looking at the floor. And things like, I saw my daughter walk for the first time, heard her talk for the first time in Belmarsh. How can you can't, it's shit things like that. And you think them things, luckily my family really supportive and no one's turned their back on me. Maybe people have, and I'm not known it, but nobody's turned their back on me. But, you know, if you're going to get involved in crime or someone's going to offer you a bit of money, just think, you know, there's always tomorrow, and it will get better. You'll get older and you'll get better at your job, or, you know, do some education and get into something like that. But this is, my school asked me to do a talk. My school I went to asked me to do a talk when I got out of prison, literally when I got out, because I knew a woman who worked there. My mum childminded her kids. But my son was going to go up to that school. So I thought, I don't really want to be the guy doing the talks when your son's at that school. And then, like, I don't know whether you was the same, Sean, you don't really want to think about it for a little while. I got into a job and I thought, I don't really want to talk about it, and I don't want to. And then 10 years down the line, you have a health problem, which wasn't my fault. I was fit, don't drink, don't smoke, trained, and it's still biting you on the arse. And I'm sitting there watching these nurses do a job that really matters. And I'm thinking, right, bollocks, I want to do something, you know, that can help people, not something that, I don't want to go out there and just make money and pay my rent. I want to do something with a bit of, you know, substance to it as such.
So for the people watching this then, how can they contact you and follow you or support you?
Well, I've my email address, which you can put on the thing after, it's my Instagram page.
Instagram,
Rich
email.
Much, yeah, I'm on that every day. But yeah, I'm doing a couple of, my friend he's working with these kids. Like, literally, these kids are coming off of lorries and he gets them, and some of the things are horrific, and they've got coming from Syria and things like that. And he's designing a program. He designs programs to go to schools and things, and he's designing one at the moment. He's asked me to be part of it, and I said, listen, I'm not at work, you know, and I want to maybe go in a different direction. I decided years. It's a long time later, but, you know, I've decided, you know, I've got to do something a bit more positive and maybe help someone. You know, there's, what is there, 4,100 senior schools in this country. Mm-hmm. You go to half of them, one kid, it's 2,000 kids. But, you know, me thinking there's no harm in dropping a bag, literally, no harm, there's no harm, it's only a bag, drop that bag off. And then it opens a whole massive can of worms. But some people are pressured into it as well, aren't they? But you need an adult to go to, I think.
I think you'd be really good in schools. You're a very good speaker.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. All right, so please let us know in the comments what you thought about this video. If you want to contact Frank, his Instagram, his email will be down there. And thank you for watching, and give us a hug, man.
Cheers, Sean.
Yeah, cheers.
Thanks,
Yeah, well done. Excellent.
Cheers, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, if you enjoy true crime books, Gadfly Press is proud to announce the publication of Son of the Cali Cartel. You may have seen the Cali Cartel as represented on Narcos. A lot of that was BS. William lays it down in this book, what actually happened. The Cali Cartel, they took over from Pablo Escobar. They were the biggest cartel in the world, dealing billions and billions per year, US dollars. And the four heads out of the two most important ones were Miguel, which was William's dad, and his brother, Gilberto. When Miguel went to prison and Gilberto went to prison, William was running the cartel. Could you imagine running a multi-billion-dollar cartel? And the DEA, war on drugs, they made them public enemy number one. William got shot up in an assassination attempt in a restaurant. The book starts out with that story. His mates got murdered and he just barely made it out alive. So if you want to check it out, it's available worldwide on Amazon as an ebook, audiobook, and paperback. And the link is in the description box below this video. Cheers. Enjoy the podcast.